So, thank you all for your patience. We will begin our regular meeting at this time. Good evening and welcome. I call to order this regular meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board. The date is March 20th, 2018, and the time is 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Board Member Hartman, will you lead us? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll have a roll call starting from my far right.
Sandy Kravitz. Allison Beckham. Pam Kirby.
Kim Hartman.
Barbara Perleberg. All board members are present, and we do have a quorum. We will move directly to agenda item 3, approval of agenda. I would like to note that we are going to pull and table for our next meeting the consent agenda item 8G. And so do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Board Member Beckham?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Board Member Hartman?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. All right. We'll move on to agenda item 4. And I welcome Dr. Fuller as our acting superintendent this evening and call upon her to present recognitions and celebrations.
Thank you very much. Mr. Slater, would you please approach and present the awards?
President Perleberg, is this on? President Perleberg, Governing Board, Dr. Fuller, Sandra, thank you. At this time, we'd like to have the Chaparral girls basketball team come forward. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Chimokas. The Chaparral girls basketball team, after losing 5 key seniors from their 2017 semifinalist team, started the season at the Highland Tournament with 2 tough losses against 4A champion Seton Catholic and 6A semifinalist Gilbert Highland. But this year, led by 5 different seniors, Kayla Trecki, and I thought I got that right, Serena Prombum, Brenna Doyle, Maddie Vick, and Summer Menke, Chaparral began a winning streak that would span for 3 months. The streak started in early December and ended with the state championship game, including wins over sister rivals Desert Mountain and Arcadia. It was behind the team's unifying efforts that the girls came back from 10 points down in the state semifinals against Arcadia to earn a rematch against Mesquite in the state championship game. Entering the championship game on a 21-game winning streak, the girls were facing Mesquite, a team they had lost to in the playoffs last year, hadn't lost to a team from Arizona in over 2 years, and was averaging over 80 points a game, with 2 players scoring over 21 points. Despite being considered considerable underdogs, the Chaparral girls played with immense focus, desire, belief, and love for each other. That the dominating win was led 30 of the 32 minutes in the game, in which they won their 2nd state championship, their first since 2001. Congratulations, Coach Brian Porth, Dr. Chimokas, and the Chaparral girls basketball team. Good job. Also, Governing Board, we did have the Chaparral girls soccer team that unfortunately had to leave, so we'll have them come at the next board meeting. And the week before we left for spring break, we had our 2nd banquet, our 2nd Governing Board, or our 2nd all-district banquet for athletics, and we appreciate all your guys' continued support with that, and Dr. Fuller as well for coming. So thank you guys, and congrats again to the Firebirds. Go Birds!
And that concludes our awards.
All right. Thank you very much. Then we will move on to agenda item 5, and I call upon Dr. Fuller to present the acting superintendent's comments.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about a robotics competition. Recently, 4 out of the 5 high schools competed at NAU, and all of them did very well. Saguaro High School team earned the first round selection for the quarterfinals and had the highest average performance of all the participant teams on one of the most difficult challenges in the competition. Arcadia won the Imagery Award honoring the father of FIRST Robotics, founder Tim Kamen. The award celebrates making engineering look cool. Chaparral won the Judges Award for providing support to other teams during the course of the competition. In Desert Mountains, last but not least, brought home the Tournament Chairman's Award, the most prestigious award that first honors the team that best represents a model for other teams to emulate and best embodies the purpose and goals of FIRST. So next, all of the five high schools will go and compete at Grand Canyon University, April 4th through 7th. So good luck to all of you, and thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on with our agenda item 6, information and discussion items. Item 6A, 2017-18 school continuous improvement plans.
Ms. Ibarra, please, would you approach and introduce your schools?
Good evening, President Perlberg, board members, Acting Superintendent Fuller. It is my pleasure to introduce one of our K-8 principals tonight and her team. We will be bringing up Ms. Strombers along with the Cheyenne staff, most of the staff.
Stephen, I need to get to my presentation. Okay. Good evening, Madam President Perleberg, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Fuller, and Sandra. Thank you for this opportunity to present the Continuous Improvement Plan for Cheyenne Traditional School. 20 years ago, Cheyenne opened as a school of choice in the Scottsdale Unified School District, guided by 9 traditional cornerstones that were adopted and approved by the Governing Board in 1995. These have remained constant and proven effective for 20 years. Cheyenne's administrators, teachers, parents, students, and staff have a part in developing Cheyenne's plan for continuous improvement. I'm pleased to share this work in progress. Cheyenne's academic goals are to raise student academic achievement across all categories and to raise highly proficient achievement. The baseline for our academic goals are set by 2017 AZ Merit data. Over the past 6 years, variables in the state assessment, as we know, complicate the analysis of data results, such as changes in test objectives and the platform by which students have tested. From 2012 through 2014, students took the AIMS, which measured mastery of standards. AZ Merit replaced AIMS in 2015 and included problem solving and critical thinking. AIMS was paper-based. AZ Merit has been tested on paper and online. An analysis of data shows that the test scores dropped for all schools with the first administration of AZ Merit in comparison to AIMS. Analyzing the trend line from AIMS to AZ Merit does not reveal an accurate picture of performance. A better measure is revealed by setting the state average to 0 and comparing scores by deviation from the average. This picture shows a trend of positive performance compared to the average. With this confidence in the curriculum, Cheyenne teachers move forward to look at scores at every grade and to reveal our strengths and areas of improvement within the curriculum. In grades 3 through 5, in ELA, and in grades 6 through 8. And in math, grades 3 through 5, and in grades 6 through 8. In 2017, half of Cheyenne 8th grade students were enrolled in algebra or geometry, and they did not take the 8th grade math assessment. Instead, these students take the high school end of course exam. Cheyenne 8th grade math performance, when including all math assessment, provides a more accurate picture of student assessment results. From this information, teachers then dove into specific standard results, highlighting areas to focus improvement in curriculum and instruction for ELA and for math. In addition to AZ merit results, teachers use formative assessments to identify students in need of immediate intervention and those students who would benefit from enrichment. Teachers Lindsay Saylor and Larissa Beckstead will speak on behalf of the teachers' work on these activities.
Thank you, Madam President, board members, Dr. Fuller, ladies and gentlemen. For intervention at Cheyenne, teachers are identifying their 5 low-performing students in their area of need. Teachers are reteaching in small group and one-on-one settings in the classroom and also in the first 10 to 15 minutes of their computer and library time to meet those individual needs. For enrichment, teachers have identified their top 5 performing students and are using things like book studies and other higher level thinking tools. Teachers are monitoring using our McCall crabs. So Larissa Beckstead is going to discuss.
I'm Larissa Beckstead, 5th grade math at Cheyenne. In grades 5th through 8th grade, we've used strategies that not only enrich and challenge our students that need enrichment, but bring students up from the bottom percentile with these strategies. These strategies we use are ones we learned and developed during our time involved in the AMP program. AMP, which stands for Arizona Mathematics Partnership, is a middle school math professional development program developed by April Strom from Scottsdale Community College. The middle school math teachers and myself spent 2 years, 130 hours working together on math professional development activities. During that time, we were encouraged to pick an area of interest to spend the 2 years of studying. We chose to study and develop deep, enriching math problems, the kind of problems that students have to stop and think about, as well as have serious mathematical discussions about their thinking and solutions. This is what we were encouraged to do in our PD classes and what we bring to our classes today. The problems we developed allowed students to work on several standards of mathematical practices, such as make sense of problems and persevere in solving the problems, reason quantitatively, construct viable arguments to support answers, and to attend to precision. In order to allow our students to apply these practices with our problems, we developed a problem-solving template that is used in grades 5th through 8th grade. This template allows students to use different pathways to find solutions and to verify their answers as well as justify their thinking. As you can see, by using deep, rich math problems, we provide opportunities for our students who need enrichment to receive enrichment while bringing up our bottom percentile students.
Cheyenne's goal to improve culture is focused on providing a safe and respectful environment. As measured for improvement, Cheyenne is using the total number of discipline referrals from the last school year and percentages of incidents. Lisa Ronan will share the work done this year with 2 is greater than 1 and Be Kind.
Hi, good evening. I'm the 5th grade reading teacher at Cheyenne. Last year, I was reading the book Wonder to my classes, and I asked Mrs. Stombries what we were doing for the Bullying Prevention Month. She suggested that I look into a program that a Girl Scout troop had created several years prior. This program, Two is Greater Than 1, Better Together, encourages students to stand up against bullying by signing a pledge and wearing a bracelet as a show of support. Cheyenne thought this would be a great foundation for a larger program that would not only denounce bullying by denounce bullying, but would actively promote kindness through student involvement. I worked with the student government, the site council, parents, my peers, and a former Cocoa Pod teacher to develop a program that could easily be integrated across curricula. We incorporated the ideas of the student-developed Two is Greater Than One, Better Together program with the positive behavior aspects of the Be Kind project. We received grants through the SUSD Foundation as well as the City of Scottsdale to help launch this program. We began the year by signing the pledge against bullying and receiving bracelets. We surveyed students to see if they felt there was a bullying problem and where we could improve as a community. This program has successfully been incorporated into monthly writing prompts, reading, technology, PE, art, library time, and more. Cheyenne Morning News also has daily discussions of positive character traits, inspirational quotes, shout-outs to students who are caught being kind. Every month, student government sponsors a monthly community service project and has a counselor from JCFS to speak to our students about positive behavior traits, friendship, and student interaction. In April, we'll be having Not My Kid assemblies for 5th through 8th grade. This project continues to evolve as we see opportunities to better meet the needs of our student community, so we have reapplied for the 2018-2019 Student or SUSD Foundation grant. Cheyenne will be purchasing new kindness books for our social media questions. We'll be purchasing new kindness books for our library, developing a parent survey, as well as incorporating social media questions into the student survey. We are also in the process of developing a student-led kindness club to help with peer conflict. By working together, Cheyenne students, families, and staff will discover each other's similarities and differences, leading to greater tolerance and kindness, and ultimately a reduction in rates of bullying incidents. Thank you.
Cheyenne's communication goals focus on student communication. Students are taught how to use technology for academic purpose and appropriate use of social media. Cheyenne students also communicate without technology, learning the soft skills of dialogue, presentation, speech, and debate. And I'm going to introduce you to Gina Morgan. She will share the work done to prepare students to be skilled in technology for academics, and Holly DiTallo will share the curricular work that has contributed to Cheyenne students' success and speech in debate.
Thank you, Madam President, board members, Dr. Fuller, ladies and gentlemen. The Curriculum Committee at Cheyenne works hard to effect constant positive movement in the areas of communication through strong horizontal and vertical articulation and alignment. Our computer literacy goals are for students to become adept at keyboarding and to learn the skills needed to utilize technology for completion of their assignments and projects in their core curriculum classes. We designed a technology program at Cheyenne and started a pilot program last year with our 8th graders, and this year we have extended the lessons to include all 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Students are taught basic skills necessary for classwork, how to use the products in Google Suite and Microsoft Office, such as Google Docs and Word, Sheets and Excel, PowerPoint slides, and formatting using MLA standards. Using backward design to break apart some of those required skills, we are teaching the basics in grades 2 through 5, in addition to their typing assignments for each student. Since the 2015 school year, Cheyenne's PTO has purchased typing club licenses for all students at Cheyenne so that they could practice typing skills in their computer class and at home. Teachers are able to monitor the student progress with this program. You can see their improvement on this word per minute graph, which starts at 2nd grade and continues through 8th grade. Our final goal for 8th graders is 35 words per minute and 90% accuracy, which should enable them to be successful in high school and in college. The second part of our communication goal is in the area of presentation. It is my pleasure now to introduce Mrs. Holly DiTallo.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Dr. Fuller, and board members. As Gina mentioned, Cheyenne's Curriculum Committee works hard in its efforts to reach extremely high communication and presentation goals. And this includes the administration of a program through the ELA or the English Language Arts at Cheyenne. One of the main strategies used to reach and exceed these communication goals is the Toastmaster Youth Leadership Program. Implemented in Cheyenne, I believe it was around 1996, and it has been going ever since then. 5th through 8th grades are effectively taught both physical demeanor and articulation in public speaking. The Toastmaster program at Cheyenne has, over the years, evolved into a 9-week program. The first 4 weeks involve basic training at the 5th and 6th grade level. Ice-breaking speeches, things like this, speeches of informational, mostly, content. And then in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, or mostly the 7th and 8th grade, we evolve into 4 weeks of speech and debate. A resolution is presented and students work in teams to prepare and present formal debate. An example of a resolution, for example, this time, actually we had it this year, is resolved that Bitcoin should be regulated as a world market currency. I learned a lot, I have to say, through this debate, and it didn't really matter to me who won at the end. It was just interesting to hear the two sides of that. The 4 weeks of this culminate in winners in the debate area, which go on to a speak-off at the end. The second 4 weeks of this 9-week or 8-week program total involve students giving individual speeches. Students learn physical demeanor, they learn eye contact, they learn social skills just in public speaking, and give these individual speeches, which might include a resume speech, informative speeches, or even a persuasive speech, which we do many of at our school. The presentation of all the speeches is much like an actual Toastmaster meeting. Both peer and teacher critiques are offered at the end of each speech. No one's feelings get hurt. Well, not that we're aware of. And students are challenged to compete and to improve their skills each time they speak in front of a group. The culmination of the program is a 5th through 8th grade attended speak-off involving the highest scoring speeches and debates in the program. It would be a difficult task to go over the skills and confidence this amazing program produces, but I would like to end with a short speech by one of my 8th grade students who will elaborate on the skills she has gained through the program. Please welcome Santina De Ortentis.
Thank you, Madam President, board members, Dr. Fuller, and audience. Who in the room is familiar with the Toastmaster Youth Leadership Program? For those who don't, this program improves the art of public speaking and instills confidence in our young teenagers. Teens today lack confidence in public speaking in front of a lot of people. My Toastmaster training by Ms. DeTallo is one of the most important things I'm taking away from Cheyenne going into high school this year. I feel less nervous in front of speaking about a lot of people, like right now. And Toastmaster has built my strength for when I plan for the future, for college and job interviews. Of my training at Cheyenne, I've had a lot of it. Toastmasters have equipped me with life skills that I will use all the time. It gives me an advantage over others, and the skills will serve me for a lifetime. Thank you.
This concludes our presentation, and I want to thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on. We're running behind.
Yeah. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Fuller, I have the pleasure of inviting up our Principal Kellen to come up to the podium. And they're going to go ahead and share their plan with you for Mountainside Middle School.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Fuller. I am very proud and privileged to be here representing Mountainside along with these incredible leaders. I have next to me Johanna Kaiser, our assistant principal, Rachel Frank, one of our special education teachers, and Lois Sugar, who is our MYP coordinator and a social studies teacher. So we're going to take turns presenting each of our goals. I'm going to start with our academic goal, which you have seen many times by now. Our academic goal for the last 3 years at Mountainside has been writing across the curriculum, specifically using claims, evidence, and reasoning. in our writing. So all subject areas, all content areas, band, PE, all core subjects do claims, evidence, and reasoning at least once a quarter. Of course, many subjects do a lot more than that. And we get together once a quarter, I should say, and compare and contrast our students' performances using claims, evidence, and reasoning in the different content and elective areas. And through that work also is built around our PLC time. We do claims, evidence, and reasoning collaboration in early release days, staff meetings, and through PLCs as well, and our common formative assessments. And thanks to Mrs. Kaiser, we have an incredible master schedule this year that is conducive to PLCs. We have come a long way at Mountainside with PLCs. We have a long way to go. And through that work is where claims, evidence, and reason is found. We have a data wall that is alive. It's actually in a room. It's very exciting. We worked very hard on the live data wall, and our PLCs meet in there monthly and talk about specific students in order to reach our academic goal. We also are a national demonstration school for Springboard, and I know we're the only school still using Springboard. We're so grateful for that. But through that process is really where claims, evidence, and reasoning has surfaced. Because it was immediate that our students needed a lot more exposure in writing rather than just through ELA. So we're very proud of that award, and we honor that award on a daily basis, which goes along with our fidelity with our district resources that we use and take advantage of, and also to increase our academic goal and work through all of these with writing in all academics. Communication.
So this year, our communication goal was that 100% of teachers would send communication quarterly to parents via Synergy. And while that may on the surface not seem like a realistic goal or even a challenging one, the history behind it was we use a lot of ways to communicate with parents. Remind 101, we send out emails from Ms. Kellen, we use the email blasts and Twitter and through our PTO. But a lot of that communication with the parents was about logistics about the school. You know, don't forget about the early release or school starts or different things. And we really saw a need to communicate with the parents more about what's going on in the classroom with the teachers and what their students are experiencing academically every day. So while our teachers do a great job of responding to parents and handling communication, we wanted a proactive approach this year. So through our PLC work, the teachers as a content level, so all the social studies teachers, would prepare a quarterly newsletter and say, here's what we're looking for in social studies we're doing in 6th grade, where we have our ancient cultures. We're going to have a final exam the last week. We have a project coming up. In ELA, these are the novels that each grade level will have. So it went out quarterly to parents. We have by no means been bombarded with problem statements about too many emails at all. In fact, when we sit through meetings, teachers are like, I'm so grateful. I feel like I really know what's going on in my child's class. So our teachers, anecdotally, we have a video, so you'll get to hear from some of them, have just received a lot of great feedback from parents that they feel a lot more connected with what's going on academically in the classroom. I'll press the button.
Excellent. So I'll talk about the the culture goal that we have for Mountainside. Mountainside's culture has been focused on becoming a candidate for IB MYP as evidenced by completing an application by April. Thanks to our IB MYP coordinator, Ms. Lois Sugar, our application was submitted in December, 4 months early, earlier than our planned timeline. We are awaiting approval and eager to take advantage of the resources available for candidate schools, which will be used by teachers, administrators, and students. Mountainside's culture focuses on full inclusion with IB MYP. This shift in our culture is not just an application process, but a shift in how we approach teaching and learning. As a self-contained special education teacher, I have been an active member with the new initiative focusing on this program and how it will positively impact all students, including students with special needs. We have dedicated professional development days to collaborating and working through the IB-MYP process, which has fostered a collaborative community at our school. We have met as content areas to work together toward incorporating the IB-MYP philosophy into our teaching strategies.
Hi. Our rigor goal was 100% of teachers will create and demonstrate rigor by implementing multiple integrated units of study as required by IB-MYP by May 2018. This goal was created prior to any IB-MYP training. I just need to tell you that right off the bat. So, this year, IB-MYP philosophy and unit design has been pretty much the sole focus of our Mountainside professional development. We've spent hours and hours learning about the philosophy and how to best implement that. There are 8 subject area teachers, teacher leaders at Mountainside who have attended IB-MYP training. We have therefore amended our goal after this educational experience to read that 100% of teachers will have completed at least one IB-MYP unit of study by March 29th, 2018. When we learned what we didn't know and how much we needed to learn to achieve a goal, we realized our goal was untenable, and we reevaluated and adjusted and modified, as we teachers do all the time, and recreated a goal that was not only attainable, but as you see by my last bullet point, we believe that many teachers will have more than 2 completed IB-MYP units for the start of school next year, which is, I have to say, a huge accomplishment. Modestly, but true. So, can I start the video, or do you want to? I don't know if there are questions.
There's no sound. At the beginning. Okay.
Hi, I'm an art teacher and a yearbook teacher here at Mountainside Middle School. MYP gives us a way better academic focus in the elective areas.
As an elective teacher, IB-MYP can help increase student achievement by including interdisciplinary units with the other curriculum areas on campus. Within our elective classes, we will be able to include writing. Every content area is on board with supporting increasing student achievement.
Our parent communication is top-notch at Mountainside. We send an ELA quarterly newsletters that highlight upcoming novels, writing assignments, and any other projects that we have going on.
So one of the things that makes Mountainside so excellent is the teacher communication with the parents. While they communicate regularly, they also pride themselves on communicating with the parents once a quarter to let them know what is going on in their classrooms with their students and keeping them abreast on what they can expect their students will be learning, what they'll be doing, and giving them a good feel of what goes on in the classroom.
Our parent communication goal this year has had such a positive response from parents. They love hearing from the science team about what's going on, and so that's really helped our community.
IB-MYP has really shifted the culture of Mountainside because it has really brought us all together to be working towards the same goal. We want our students to become high achievers, and it's really brought out our PLC, the best in our PLC, to really make sure that we're all collaboratively working towards making sure that students are becoming the best students that they can be and progressing towards all of their future goals that they want to achieve, and even some goals that they don't even realize they want to achieve yet.
I think the IB-MYP culture at Mountainside has gotten much better since we started working collaboratively together as teachers, coming up with new ideas for things to do that would work within any any of the different areas. So the social studies can work with the English department can work with the science department, the art department can get involved with the other core curriculums. So the encore classes don't feel that they're shut out from what's going on with the rest of the campus, that they can get involved with the culture that's going on with the MYP program.
Hey gang, here at Mountainside, we are all about the rigor. Our rigor is going through the roof. We're creating some MYP IB unit plans. They're gonna be amazing. Wait till you see them. Can't wait. See you later.
IB MYP allows students an opportunity to engage in what they're learning and to connect what they're learning into the real world and to problem solve and to think more complexly instead of just memorizing an answer to something. They've made a personal connection to it, and then they're able to carry it with them in years to come.
It is just beginning. And we, I'm going to take a moment. I can't tell you how much I am so proud and appreciative of the teacher leadership that has grown at Mountainside in this short year. And I'm very grateful for our teacher leaders. I am grateful every day of our teacher leaders. And Mrs. Sugar and all of our teachers who have taken, Mrs. Frank is a teacher leader. They really hit the ground running with IB NYP. It's a huge challenge, and we are excited, and we are doing really well, and we are just beginning. So I'm excited to share the journey with you as we go. And I do want to thank, I don't see her though, I really want to thank Dr. Johnson, who has been really our advocate and such our support through this process. She went to training with Mrs. Kaiser and Mrs. Sugar earlier in the year. So I just want to acknowledge and thank her. So thank you.
I think it just said questions.
Okay.
Questions or comments?
No, good.
Okay, Dr. Fuller.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the audience, I neglected to tell you that Dr. Johnson broke a toe. So she is in pain at home, but called me today wishing all of you good luck, so I apologize for forgetting that. She's fine though. She'll be back soon. Thank you.
Poor toe.
So, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Fuller, I get the pleasure of introducing for her since she's not able to be here, and we're going to have Desert Mountain High School. Dr. Hirsch is going to come up with her team and present their improvement plan to you this evening.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Lisa Hirsch, proud principal of Desert Mountain High School. I want to thank the board and President Perlberg and Dr. Fuller and Ms. Como. Thank you so much for having us, and I'll have Alicia introduce herself.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Bradford, and I am one of the assistant principals at Desert Mountain.
And I can't avoid saying this, but we have a big audience at home, so thank you all the Wolves teachers that are watching. And I also want to thank the people behind us who have been really influential and instrumental in helping me start my first year at Desert Mountain with a plan that was cohesive, and it was very easy to fit into it. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. And I also want to show you, this is our plant, our physical plant. This is the roof view. Desert Mountain is a really beautiful school with a lot of acreage, mainly the building, which is a quarter-mile long. And part of that also determines our culture when we get to the culture piece. And if you have questions at the end about safety, we'll also answer those. I also have one other thing to say when we talk talk to our teachers, sometimes we say, please be nice to your students because you'll never know, they one day might be your boss. And Alicia went to Desert Mountain High School, and her English teacher still teaches there, and she is awesome. She's one of the TILs, but I just thought that was a kick for you to see that we do grow our own in Scottsdale as well. Now, do we click this? Do we do the enter? Okay. I really love the question, what is the learning and how are they learning it? That's also been a framework for Desert Mountain and for the district with our PLC work. So pictured on the left is beginning of the year work with our larger groups, and then over to the right is our World Language Department meeting. How are they learning is something that we also ask ourselves, and also who are we teaching is another really important question. We have a very diverse population and learning community that comes into us. We have many, many programs, and I want to just explore and define our diversity with, I didn't bring a band and I didn't bring dancers, but I do want to show a little bit of the diversity here at Desert Mountain. So this is our orchestra. Okay, I don't want to cut them off, but I don't want to take too much time. The orchestra and the band and the choir have all been invited next year to London. They will be in the New Year's Day parade. Wow. I got to meet the vice mayor, and he was really extraordinary with our students and really offered a really warm congratulations to them, and they really are a top-rate performing arts department. Over to the right is another kind of student. We call these kids our rock and rollers. So I'll play them over and over. But I thought this was a really great juxtaposition in some levels, and also to note that when these students are performing, you don't know who's an IB student, you don't know who is our quarterback, you don't know who is on an IEP. When the kids are together and learning together in our community, they're all wolves, and we know that as teachers, we do a lot to orchestrate their learning and their focus, and to understanding that high school's a lot about performance. And those tests and all those rigorous exercises that we have them do really should amount to something. So that's another aim of the PLC, is to get us to have artifacts just like this, but within our classrooms. This was another very interesting thing that the people behind me had us do the very first day. All 5 of our wonderful new principals, although Anne's not new, but we had to, the second day of school, show everybody our AZ merit scores, and I hadn't even met all of the teachers yet. So that's pretty interesting on its own. What you can see here that I think is really interesting and also created the demand for what we were studying at McCrell is show teachers something and then have them start having conversations. There's no blame, there's no reason to get upset about it, but to say we have work to do. The blue is actually this year's scores. The maroon is last year's scores. This is English, this is math. What's also very interesting to me is the same students who scored top in the state and improved in math didn't do the same in English, yet they're the same students. And it really isn't the teachers either that were to blame. It's looking at how is the learning organized. And I am also, just like Terry Kellen, a huge fan of PLC and also CER writing. So we looked together, and one by one, just after presenting this, English teachers just came into my office and said, you know, here's something I've been thinking about. And so over time, our TILs, and then luckily we had department leads reintroduced, came in with a plan. We presented all of these to each other, yet it's a slow cooker, but it's slow and purposeful, and creating a lot of great aroma so far. Our goals, as you know, we were told we needed an academic, a communication goal, and a culture goal. To the right is something I like to see in every classroom. So every week when I give a little encouraging email in the evening of Sunday, I always put in a few pictures. And we put in examples of things that kids have done. I always take snapshots all day long. But this one board was so great. And of course, this teacher has a middle school and elementary school background. That's why it's so beautiful. So the academic goals is to move up and stay up, just like all of us. We also had each faculty member write a SMART goal. So a SMART goal, of course, is specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's reasonable, and it's timed. So within a year's time, what can you do with your students, or how will your students be prepared so that they are performing better at something? So even a teacher in CTE is preparing students for a test at the end. And those CTE tests are rigorous, and we felt that even if you're preparing for that kind of assessment, you will also do better on the AZ Merit. You'll at least be prepared to be in a testing environment at the very least. But a lot of those tests also, and a lot of the measures of the SMART goals were also about strategies, implementation of strategies in the classrooms to see better results. And one, Terry, we should talk, because one was about CER with one teacher, and his goal has been surpassed. And he also told his colleagues when he did a training that none of his special needs students go to the testing center anymore because they're so prepared with how to write CER paragraphs, they're not even nervous. So it's pretty awesome. PLCs are key, of course. Our communication goal is to be sure that our parents, students, and staff can source information. That means making sure it's legitimate and that they know where to find it. That communication is timely and that it's two-way. Also at Desert Mountain, when we looked at our advanced ed exit survey, some of the compliments were the sense of belonging. So we wanted to keep that going, and Alicia will talk a little bit later about some of the implementation and surveying about that. And our hashtag, it's a great day to be a wolf, we just want to kind of keep that flow going.
So when looking at our continuous improvement plan, we focused on some essential questions. For the academic piece, how can we do better on the AZ Merit? Those are constant discussions in every class, every teacher, regardless of content. What can we do to better prepare our students? How about AP testing? And how can we grow the IB program through adding MYP? That's going to be a huge addition to our school, and we're very excited to have that as well. For communication, what do parents, students, staff, and teachers do to source and share important information in the most expedient way? We've done various surveys with teachers, students, and parents to try to find the best way to communicate. And one thing, in light of present events, how do we communicate in a crisis? That's something that we are working on currently and continuing to improve on. As far as culture goes, how do we measure the sense of belonging at DM? We've gone from, even since the time that I've been there, having 3 lunches to 2 lunches to 1 lunch. And so this year that was a main question, is how do we, is it worth it to have 1 lunch? And why do we have 1 lunch? And how do we better foster mutual respect, especially with our incoming students who are learning the ropes and learning what it's like to be a wolf? And one, I think this is probably for everyone, what is the answer to the use of cell phones? How do we ensure that students are active participants in their learning, that they're engaged in class and not distracted with their phones, and what can we do? So that's something that we're going to continue to look at as we move forward.
One little anecdote about the cell phones, as I go around and snap pictures, some of the freshmen just actually this week are really into this one game. And I've been looking over at them in the cafeteria. We've had to, make sure they sit down. A lot of kids like to stand up for some reason the entire lunch period. So they'll sit down. And then it was just this week, I looked over and everyone was on their phone. But they were playing each other in this game that now I have to learn. So, but it's pretty extraordinary. When you see the lunch, this whole entire hallway is full of students eating, talking, sitting, sometimes walking around, and it kind of looks and feels like a college campus. It's a little bit intense to walk into, but really it's been pretty well proven that our kids really use that lunch period well. And in fact, in our survey, 70% of our students said they use that one lunch period to get extra help from their teachers in office hours. It's just me. Another thing that we picked up from the McCrell training is a graphic that I really like, and it kind of rings in my ears when Dr. Nance has talked about curriculum, matching instruction, matching assessment. This also illustrates a lot of the work that Cheryl Redner's department is also doing. In the very bottom it says, ensure curricular pathways to success. So that is our curriculum maps. Guaranteeing the challenging and intellectual instruction comes with our PLCs. Providing the whole child and student supports, I think about our guidance department. On the right-hand side, creating high-performance school cultures is really, it's okay to be smart, it's okay to work hard. Today, after school, I was in a meeting about encouraging students to stay in IB, so that we are really working on strategies to continue to hold on to those kids through senior year. And then on the outside is develop the data-driven, high-reliability systems, and that's also something that this district is doing really well. So I think this picture is going to become our framework. We changed the colors from blue to maroon, and I think that's just fine with the publisher. I think you're, I don't know. Oh, this is me. Okay, this is me. There's humor in that right-hand slide that some people know about, but the communication is really the source of our success. So in our goal area, we really use the site council for our biggest base of communication back and forth with parents, so that we are really focusing on what matters most to our school. We began with the year with the CIP plan with them. We then talked about lunch for 4 months and did a lot of surveying and a lot of back and forth, and Patty Bilberry helped us. We really went whole hog, and even have our DECA team just won a really big award because of the store that they're starting at lunch and their partnership, which I think is the first in the state to work with the food services. With Site Council, we're talking about communication, but we've also been, the last meeting was dedicated to safety. Thanks to Erin Helm, we have the monthly parent newsletter with the corners, and we just kind of fill that in. Parents really like that. Every week we have a wolf link on the Friday that ends school. Our secretary, Jill, puts out the wolf link that everybody can add to, and including test schedules. The weekly wolf link is also something that we really love to see our teachers read. So sometimes on Monday, when I do my little email, I'll say, be sure to read the wolf link, because we do get really busy as teachers. So we also have Desert Mountain Television and the celebrations that we directly tweet out, but we also give to Erin Helm, and she tweets for us on a regular basis. The no vapes, of course, is the movement, because I look like Edna Mode. No capes. We're trying to get rid of vaping however we need to.
Okay, so in discussing culture, like I said before, we are down to one lunch, and that was a big change for us at first. And I think the first year that it happened, we had some pushback from students, but now they enjoy it, and you can see that students have found a place. Kids like to sit on the floor, believe it or not. Our cafeteria, actually, they'd rather roam around and sit by the classrooms, go in and see their teachers. Also, that moves us to club participation. We have 71 student-run clubs. So that's fantastic. At the very beginning of the year, we have Club Rush, and students on their own have to find a teacher sponsor and get their group together and charter their club. So that's been going on since the very beginning of school. Also, we have peer leadership. We have a lot of our students that participate in the peer leadership club and work with our special needs students, whether it be helping them to lunch, sitting in classrooms, helping them take notes, helping with socialization. So it's really, really great to see that connection in that community. Personalization. You know, when you walk through our halls, it's all about being a wolf and all the wonderful things that we do on campus, whether it's academics from IB, our AP program, our athletics, our theater, dance program, so many amazing things. Also making the big feel small, because as Dr. Hirsch said, our school is gigantic and it's easy to get lost. I think it takes 7 minutes to walk from one end of the school to the other, so it's a big place, but that's the best thing for us and really important for us to make it feel like home for all of our students. We also have PIPT, where administrators meet weekly with our counselors, and we discuss students who may be having difficult time, anything that teachers may have brought to our attention, or parents, and how we can better support them and continue to follow up to make them as successful as possible. Also, to our campus, we have a social worker this year, which is an amazing addition. We use her frequently, whether it be a student that is struggling with connecting socially to friends, or having struggles in classes, difficulties at home. We really rely on her. She's a good source of information. It's not a teacher, it's not a parent, it's not an administrator, so our students feel really comfortable with her. She's created peer groups, so our students have a place, an outlet to speak to other peers that are going through the same things as they are. And we're continuing to build programs with her, so we're really excited for that. And of course, our wonderful PTO. We love them. They help make so many things possible for us. They feed us during our district in-service days. They provide us with all kinds of treats and thank you notes. And so we're really, really happy to have them and their support, and we want to continue that relationship with them.
Thank you. Awesome. And just so, how are we doing? We're doing all right? You said you'd get the hook if we're too long. Are we all right? We're going good? Okay, so this is the next to last slide. When we began the school year, these are kind of lists of things we do for professional development. I'd like to skip down to the TIL work and the observations. We had a day where I bought 5 subs over 2 days, and our 5 TILs went into 80 classrooms. Together, they came back to our CIP team and shared notes that we had done on, and the beginning was, what is the learning, how are they learning it, and what are the artifacts that the teachers are using to see the learning. They shared their notes. We were writing all over the board, and that's going to come to our rigor and growth mindset walkthrough rubric that I got a lot of information off of Dr. Chimokas, and we're still slowly growing it, but it's really, really very exciting. At this time, too, I'd also really like to thank Dr. Johnson, who I hope is watching us on TV, and she never believed that I would keep it under 15 minutes, so we did it. And also on the right-hand side is a picture of us. We had a faculty-student basketball game, and at that time we had our mid-court or halfway mark with our robot was throwing prizes into the crowd. So it was really an inclusive event and really, really fun. And on the right-hand side, we have 2 young ladies in our anatomy class dissecting a goat's brain. Or it could be 2 brains, I'm not positive. It's probably, that Abby Normal thing from, but they really smiled for that picture, and it had a little odor too. So, but the kids do really well. I'm really enjoying myself. I want to really thank you again for bringing me on board in Scottsdale, and to our really phenomenal team. Thank you for listening, and I wonder if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
All right.
Just that it's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
that the last one? All right, then I will make one quick comment. Love hearing about our teachers and teacher leaders and our academic leadership and our principals really making PLCs work in this district and be effective. Wasn't always the case. I just absolutely love hearing that we're really using that tool to the best of its ability. That's terrific. All right, we will move on to agenda item 6B, update on fiscal year 2017-18 maintenance and operations budget.
Hold on. Oh, we still have one more? Dr. Sitton?
Oh.
We have one more?
Dr. Sitton, did we have another? Oh.
Well,
I was
bring it
told
on.
that was it.
I
Is that
apologize.
okay?
I was told that there were only 3, but I guess I was mistaken, and we have 4.
I apologize. I apologize on behalf of the elementary. I wasn't aware of that, but I will bring Margaret Cerna up right now with her staff from Tovon.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Is it this one? Is it this one? Okay.
Good evening. I'm so happy to be here to present all the wonderful things that are going on at Tovon. President Perleberg, board members Dr. Fuller and Sandra. It is my pleasure to present my team that is going to talk about all the wonderful things that are going on at Tovon Elementary School. But before we started, I'd like to congratulate my colleagues from Cheyenne, Mountainside, and where's the other one? Cheyenne, Mountainside, and? Thank you. I've had 4 presentations now. I'm all nervous. But anyway, you all did a wonderful job. It's going to be a hard act to follow. So I'd like to introduce my team. This is one of our team's 4th grade teacher, Lauren Miles. This is another 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Golio. Teams teacher, Mrs. Sakius. Gifted and enrichment, Mrs. Williams. Ms. Sharon Nelson, our reading coach and specialist. And then we have Mr. Devo, who is one of our parents. He lives right across the street from the school. Wow. We love it. Okay, so anyway, we've been listening to high school and middle school, so now we're going to talk about math, reading, writing, sunshine, and smiles in elementary school. So I'd like to start it off by passing it over to Ms. Golio.
All right, so I'm just going to quickly talk about our school mission and vision. Our Tovon mission is to foster a welcoming environment for children and adults that promotes academic, citizenship, kindness, and social conscientiousness. All members of our learning community join to do whatever it takes to provide educational opportunities for all to be successful, dynamic, contributing, and kind human beings. And our vision is to have a diverse community that encourages, educates, and empowers all to excel. I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Cerna.
As a title school, we have to combine what our mandated state Title I plan is and combine it with our continuous improvement plan for Scottsdale. So I'm going to talk a little bit about both. There is 6 principles that you have to address in a Title I plan. Effective leadership, and we combine that with our SIP and the work that we did with our PLCs. Principle 2, effective teachers and instruction. We have professional development that is run by Sharon that we're going to talk about more, and it's for your reading pleasure on the things on the side. I'm not going to go through them. Principle 3, effective organization of time, and we have now regular scheduled, well-structured PLC and data meetings. Effective curriculum. It's the time that we've used to our pacing guides and to develop our CFAs. Conditions, climate, and culture. We follow the PBIS and the Be Kind program. And last, family and community engagement. And one of the things that we have made a commitment to at Tovon, every classroom teacher does send home a daily email to their parents that is inclusive of what standard was taught, what assessments are given, positive reinforcement, school announcement, and our parent participation has gone through the roof. We love it. Okay. So then we combined it to our SIP plan, which is data, professional development, rigor, and community and culture. And with that, I'm going to pass it on back over to you, Ms. Galileo.
All right, so as Ms. Cerna said, our first goal is about data. We have set several goals for AZ Merit over a 3-year time period, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a minute. So at Tovon, data is something we talk about regularly. It's not a secret. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it with parents, kids, and with each other. And we own it, okay? It's our data, we're proud of it, we're gonna keep making it better. So our data starts with our students. They take the assessments, they take the CFAs, and as their teachers we get their results, then we analyze them and bring them to our PLCs to share with our grade level teams. And we also share them with our parents and the administration, and we use the data to help guide our instruction. As you can see up here, this is our data room. That's where all of our PLCs take place. In our data room, we have a data card for every individual student, K through 5, and they're arranged by grade and proficiency level. And as we take major assessments or benchmarks, the kids' cards are moved based on their performance. And we also have data walls in each of our classrooms so the students can track their own data and see their own progress as well. So we created a 3-year AZ Merit goal. The data up here is for ELA. So what we did is we took our proficiency percentages from 2017 and we created an ultimate goal for 2020. Our goal in 2020 is to have 80% passing for across all 3 grade levels. And then we kind of created incremental goals for 2018 and 2019 so we can get there. So ultimately, by 2020 in ELA, we would like to see, and we project 80% either of our students either scoring proficient or highly proficient on AZ Merit. And we also did the similar thing for math. We took our 2017 scores, and similar to ELA, by 2020, it is our goal, and we are projecting that we will have 80% of our students across 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade either scoring proficient or highly proficient on AZ Merit. So I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Nelson.
President Perleberg, board members, Dr. Fuller, and Sandra, our second goal is professional development. Every year we give a staff survey to see what our teachers need to try and differentiate professional development. Some of the examples from the survey are on the slide. A few of them: guided reading, we're a thinking map school, tiered interventions. We make sure all of our teachers are trained. Our main PD focus this year is to strengthen our professional learning communities and first best instruction using the gradual release responsibility model. At our staff meetings, we have classroom teacher tidbits. Teachers are selected through classroom walkthroughs and observations, and they present on Tovon best practices at the staff meetings. Tovon has a year-long plan for professional development to strengthen our PLCs. This is our main focus for all of our teachers this year. It started during the summer. All grade levels unpacked, identified priority standards. All grade levels created grade level common formative assessments. And then during the school year, we have grade level PLCs in the data room with the leadership team. During this time, new learning is provided. We do learning targets, we look at the data, and we reteach, provide for reteach. This got cut off a little. 4 questions we are always asking and we live by. What do we expect students to learn? The standards. We have identified priority standards and created learning targets. How will we know they have learned it? The evidence. Grade level common formative assessments to know how students did. What will we do when they have not learned it? Intervention. Reteach whole group or small group, and we have all tiered interventions in place for tier 1, 2, and 3. What will we do when they have learned it? Enrichment and higher level thinking. I'm now going to turn it over to Ms. Williams.
Okay, as any other school, we definitely have rigor involved, but we also want to do enrichment because we sort of adhere to that notion of you learn from the company you keep. And at Tovon, that's a really important task for us to do as a Title I school. So you'll see up there on the board that we have our teams classes, and that's a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade class this year, and we're adding a 5th grade next year. And I am fortunate to be the PLC leader, but we meet together to determine what kinds of curriculum are we going to do, what kinds of assessment, what kind of training. And if you'll look at that picture down there in the corner, you see Miss Miles and Mrs. Sawku and myself went to a Lego Education Maker workshop, and we were trying to make a holder for a cell phone. And I've done this with my gifted classes, and they were much faster than we were. As the gifted enrichment specialist, that's our tier 3 on that enrichment and rigor level. And I'm seeing about 130 students per week. If you look at my gifted list, it's about 30. So we are pulling in students to give them that opportunity. Along with that, we have a math specialist at school who's doing in-depth math work with grades 3 through 5. And of course, our tier 1 is our classroom teachers. After-school STEM classes for students who aren't in gifted enrichment. So a lot of times what I've done in gifted in enrichment, I'll offer a class after school for any student who wants to take it. Tovon STEM Academy, which happens either after school or in summer school. And then I serve as a teacher mentor to any teacher if they're having problems or they need resources. I'll be happy to provide that. Here you're going to see, this is our teams. It gives you a little information about our teams classes. TEAMS stands for Tovon Technology, Engineering, Accelerated Math, and Science. And this was kind of we kind of stepped off and tried something new. And with 3rd grade, you'll see there that we're kind of compressing 3rd grade math into a couple of quarters, and then we start on 4th grade, for part of 4th grade, then we go into 5th, and then by 5th grade, they should be in 6th grade math. So, and you can see the dates there for the implementation, 2nd and 3rd. Our second grade teams class just goes deeper. Not so much acceleration, but going deeper. So it's definitely a work in progress, but we've seen some good results. And and I can say this because I'm not the one teaching the math. We have fabulous math teachers. So. And then the last thing I want to show you here, this is Enrichment and Rigor for All. In the Tovon Gifted Enrichment Program, this year the Arizona Science Center had an exhibit called Get Animated, and it had to do with stop motion animation. So for all of my gifted classes, we determined we were going to do a stop motion animation project. And I happen to be on the Lego Education Advisory Board. I'm one of 50 teachers in the United States that's on this board. So I have lots of Legos. So what the kids did is we investigated fairy tales, and then we investigated fractured fairy tales, and then groups of 3 kids, they wrote their own individual fractured fairy tale, but all working on the same one, and then they met together to decide whose beginning they were going to use, whose middle they were going to use, and whose end they were going to use. And here you see one of the storyboards. I think our artist here, it was the group, but only one girl did the drawing. This is Cora Ryder's drawings. She's one of my gifted kids, and she's a great little artist. And you're going to see, she and Kendall Sawku up there in that picture, and you'll see that they're doing their stop motion animation. Now, if you don't know about stop motion animation, it is like in their final product, it was a 5-minute video, and it had 855 still shots. So, and in it we used the 5th grade writing standards. We looked at the writing standards. We observed that. I worked closely with the teachers, so we were able to coordinate that follow through in the classroom. We used education technology standards, And if I can keep my mind about me, I'm going to show you 45 seconds of their video.
Jack. Hi, I'm Jack.
Goodness, come on.
Hi, Jack. Hi, Ho. I have a new robot for you to program at home. Yes. Yes. Let me help you get that off. Thanks. Have a nice day. You too. Don't forget it tomorrow. No problem. Taxi, taxi. Okay, no problem. Screech! Vroom, vroom. Where would you like to go? Just down the street. My bag is heavy. Okay, then. Ooh, my backwards. Okay, Dad. Excuse me.
Okay. They did, the whole class did really great work. And so if you ever decide you're interested, my email is marilynwilliams@susd.org. Let me know. Send me an email. I'll send you some links.
Ever since the first day I started at Tovon, our administration, Ms. Cerna and Ms. Ballard, have instilled the phrase, whatever it takes. So every single adult on our campus does whatever it takes every single day to help our students grow and succeed. So we do whatever it takes in the morning before school. We have lots of different programs. We have a developmental learning lab. We have morning announcements, which are run by the 5th graders. We have reading clubs, ELD tutoring, math clubs, and all of this is funded by our Title I money, by our 21st Century grants, and our results-based funding money that we received this year. We also do whatever it takes during the school day. So I'm not going to go through all these, but I'm going to highlight a few. We have our gifted specialist, Mrs. Williams, and she works, again, K through 8 and with our team's teachers. We also have Title I instructional coach and reading specialists. They work with small groups of students and with our teachers to help with interventions in the classroom. And we have a math coach who works with 3rd through 5th grade students as well as teachers. We also have a community specialist that helps with any students who have social issues that might be impeding their learning in the classroom. All right, we also do whatever it takes after school. So we have action tutoring, which is for our ELD students. We have other academic tutoring. We have the first Lego League, so our robotics team competed in the robotics competition earlier this year and did amazing. We also have some health and fitness clubs. So we have competitive track, which I coach, which is why I'm dressed like this. We have a dance program, and we have jump rope club. And we know that these clubs aren't just about helping students with their physical health, because we know that when they're physically healthy, they're going to learn better in the classroom as well. So we really support that health and fitness types of clubs at our school as well. So if before, during, and after school is not enough, we also do whatever it takes over fall break, spring break, and summer school. So we do survival camp over fall break, which is normally for our K-1 students, and it's just kind of how to do school for those kids that need a little extra help figuring out how does school work. We also have spring break boot camp, which we just finished last week, which is a lot of test-taking skills and getting these kids ready for the upcoming AZ Merit, and just helping those kids who need a little extra bump to get that proficient score. And then over summer, we have different themes every summer, but we do fine arts, camp plug and play. We just want to make learning fun for the kids. And all of these are free to every single student, so they don't have to pay a dime for any of the before, after, during, or after school activities or any of the break activities, so it's really awesome.
I'm short after Lauren. And so when we're visited by members of the community, when we have parent walkthroughs, and when we go out into the community for field trips, and also when we were visited by the A+ Association, they're constantly noticing that we've been complimented that our students are kind and that they are respectful. And that's something that we're very proud of as Tovon teachers and administration. And so we owe a lot of this to being a Be Kind school, and also that we have taken in the last couple years all of our Tovon rules and narrowed them down to just 2 simple rules that every student knows, that we are to be kind at all times and to follow directions. And so if any student needs to be spoken to about behavior,
We ask, were you kind? Did you follow directions? And we can usually come to a quick consensus with them making better choices in the future. So turn the time over to Mr. DiVenuto.
Thank you, President Perlberg, board members, Dr. Fuller and Sandra. Thanks for letting us have the opportunity. My name is Frank DiVenuto. I have 4 children that have gone through, or I have one still currently going through Tovon Elementary. My wife is also a school teacher there as well, so I'm a wildcat. Our family, we're wildcats. I want to take the time to thank some of our Tovon community, some of the businesses and churches that help us to offer some of the scholastic learning opportunities at the school. Scottsdale Bible Church, Be Kind Organization, Arcadia City Church, Playworks, Grand Canyon University, ASU and NAU, the Mercich Mall's Letter to the Troops, McDonald's, Arcadia Realtors, Chick-fil-A, Charles, Barnes & Noble, the Jaffe Realty Group, GoFundMe, and the Arcadia High School Tutors and Volunteers. So let's give them a... It takes that kind of, those kind of donations and things to, obviously, to be the school that we are. I'm going to talk about community culture. I'd like to talk again, like Ms. Sakachu started to talk about the Be Kind project. My kids have, I have my oldest is almost 17 now. My youngest is 8, and so I've seen transitions in time. And when the Be Kind project came on, walking onto the campus, you did see a discerning difference. The way the kids were not just polite, they went overly. If you asked where a classroom was, they would walk you to the classroom. Things like that. Just very, very, very professional. I mean, it's really mature. We have a lot of Tovon traditions, which makes us a Tovon family. We're going to talk about the Turkey Day Feast, green eggs and ham breakfast, the Turkey Bowl. March Madness will talk about that in a little bit. Parent education. We have a thing we call Parent University. And these classes are sponsored by grade level, and they're given 3 nights per grade level. It's 18 a year, and these are things like first grade would have a reading class that helps the parents to teach them how to read to their kids and how to make sure that their kids are understanding what they're what they're reading and things like that. Obviously, math. I need help with that when I teach my kids math. That was a good one for me. Things like that. But this is all a volunteer thing. The teachers volunteer their time for this. It's not and they're not compensated. This is something they do out of their goodness of their hearts because they want the kids to have that opportunity with their parents to learn, and to learn even when they're not in school and on the premises. The PTO, our PTO raises about $20,000 a year. We have some groups that stem from that is the Dad's Club and the Cafecitos groups. They help set up and organize the events, and they really put a lot of time in. I mean, it is unbelievable. People think you just go to a dance for 2 hours for the Valentine's Day dance with your daughter, and it just hours before, hours after, all during the week, the preparation, getting people to donate and things like that. So it's like to give them, we have a lot of support from those groups. We have a lot of specialized great events, Tovon Traditions, which I talked about earlier. We talk about the Turkey Day Feast. It's just getting parents in the school with their kids, and having a meal with them and just kind of seeing how they interact with their peers, and that's actually a very an experience that I've enjoyed all throughout the years. Green eggs and ham is another one. My favorite is the Turkey Bowl and March Madness. My youngest daughter always likes to point out to her older brothers and sisters that they were all on the losing teams when they were in 5th grade. She wants to be the one that wins so she can brag about it for the next 50 years. We also want to talk about, we have Jack's Calendar, Outdoor Ed. These are all important. There's kind of bookends that, Jack's Calendar is when they're in kindergarten, Outdoor Ed's when they're in 5th grade. It's kind of you see that evolution in between. Those are very important events that my kids all attended, and they all looked forward to, and they still remember fondly. I'd like to just kind of speak from the heart a little bit and just let you know what I think makes Tovon different. In today's day and age, we kind of look and hear a lot of things in the news and things like that. You walk out on the playground at Tovon Elementary, you are going to see a diverse group. I would say more diverse than probably anywhere in the Valley. It is a complete mix. And those kids, the way they play, there's hope for the future. Those kids are learning, and they're not just learning numbers and how to read. They're learning to problem solve. They're learning to communicate. They're looking to look beyond what someone is actually saying and really try to hear them. And I think that is a huge difference. That all goes back to our teachers and our administrators. The passion, you hear some of it here with these teachers. The passion that they have. Being a teacher at Tovon isn't an occupation, it's a mission. And they wake up every morning and they want those kids to get the best out of that day. And I see it as a parent, and my wife, I see it in her as a teacher. She goes out every day. You know how teachers are. If they're tired, doesn't matter. You got to go to school. You just get in there, you get your work plans done, and you just go to work, you put that smile, and you make sure that kid knows you gave them your best today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Margaret Cerna.
Now, one of the things, when you are in a title school, it is about diversity, and I think I've shared this with you, Ms. Kirby, that we say, lovingly call Tovon the Ellis Island of Scottsdale. And just a lot of times, people look at these kind of issues as a minus. We look at it as a plus. We have 725 kids, 72% poverty level, 51% open enrollment, 18 languages, 6 ELD classes, 2 self-contained classrooms, Panda preschool, and a full day preschool paid through Title I. And again, we're proud of all this. This is our badge of honor. One of our proudest moments was this year. We were awarded results-based funding, $263,000 based on our student growth. Tovon in the news. This is our 4th year of being an A+ school. And some other highlights that I just want to mention more so. To congratulate my teachers, to congratulate my parents for the wonderful job they do with our kids. I remember my father watching Cesar Chavez speak on the television about poverty and about minorities. And he said, if you are a politician, an educator, whatever you are, it's your obligation to give students maybe what they can't have at home. And we strive hard to do that. We are a 21st Century Grant recipient. We were a Spotlight School. Right now, we found out Arizona Science Center is going to pilot their mobile science lab at Tovon. We are proud of our Teen Strand, our Be Kind, and also all this costs money, and we want to make sure that we are able to give our kids maybe what they can't have from home or other places. But we have received $137,219.42 in grants, mostly written by Ms. Williams. So, oops, that got messed up there. We're talking, in this slide, it's building our SUSD Arcadia learning community. We want to make sure that our kids know they're going to learn and be successful at Tovon. I have so much confidence sending them on to Ingleside, then sending them on to Arcadia, and then an Ivy League university. So thank you for this opportunity. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you for all the great
thanks.
Thank you for all the great work, Tovon, and we are so grateful you were not missed tonight, because that was worth it. Thank you. All right. Now we will move on to our next agenda item, 6B, update on fiscal year 17-18, maintenance and operations budget.
Dr. Virgil, would you please approach the podium and present?
Tough acts to follow.
I know. I don't know how you're going to do that.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Fuller, Sandra, good evening. This presentation is with guidance from Dr. Fuller and assistance from Dr. Sitton, and is less on fiscal year 18 and more on looking forward into fiscal year 19 and what is possible. So we start with what's available. What funds do we have available going into fiscal year 19? And the inflation adjustment, that first number, 1.77%, $2,300,000. That number is the number that the Joint Legislative Budget Committee proposed. The governor's number was 1.79%. Normally, when the Joint Legislative Budget Committee and the governor are relatively close, you can be somewhat assured that that's going to be the target of where they're going to be at. Of course, it's dependent upon final legislative action and governor approval as far as what the final number will be. Similar on the teacher salary increase, 1.06%, and that is a continuation and an additional 1.06% on top of the Prop 123 from last year. Both the Joint Legislative Budget Committee and the governor we're proposing the 1.06%. The difference between the two proposals is JLBC is proposing that it be in the same manner that it was for this year, whereas the governor's proposal is to put it into the base level to make it part of the permanent funding formula. The fiscal year 18 budget revision carry forward. We'll be doing a carry forward revision prior to the middle of May, and we're looking at an additional $2,300,000 in that carry forward. So to explain that, let me step back previous, and when I wasn't here, when we originally proposed and adopted the fiscal year 18 budget back in June of last year, the carry forward amount is an estimate. And so in those documents, the estimate was a little over $5 million. Then as you finish out the year and you do your annual financial report and you see where you actually end up, then you revise your budget, and you revised the budget in November, and you revise that $5 million figure to $7,200,000 figure. Then you did, then you submit that, your AFR gets submitted. The ADE Finance is always looking, and then they produce periodic reports of what their numbers are compared to our numbers. On the DSEG AFR, there was an issue that the business office worked out in November-December timeframe. That issue in the DSEG clouded the discrepancy in the budget revision carry forward amount. So the carry forward amount, when the DSEG AFR issue was cleared up, then the ADE Finance report showed that we could still have another $2.3 million in our carry forward. So talking to the individual that noticed this, how did we do that? Well, we transfer an amount of M&O into our Energy, Water, and Savings Fund to fund that program. Then when they were figuring out the actual expenditures, they counted that a second time, that transfer, as an expenditure. So it got taken out of our general budget limit the first time as a transfer, and then it got counted as an expenditure, which subtracted it again. Well, ADE's reporting system picked up on that, and like I say, it's a constant reconciliation with ADE numbers in school finance. And so now that the numbers are clear, we have another $2.3 million that we can add on to our budget balance carry forward when we do the next revision in May. So it's a good news thing. And I say they and them when I talk about the individuals in the business office. I promise I would not throw them under the bus. Things happen, and that's why, quite frankly, that's why AD Finance continually puts out these reports so that you can reconcile your figures against their figures and work out the differences. So we'll get that worked out, and so when we do the budget revision here in a couple of months, we will add that $2.3 million onto the carry forward. Operation efficiencies, $1.3 million on operation efficiencies. It's two things. 500,000 of that is staffing efficiencies, and I worked and spoke with Dr. Sitton, and she has changed some of the staffing models, and so we can realize some savings in staffing that will add up, projected to add up to $500,000. And then 800,000 in changing the way we approach our cash controlled accounts. And we have a series of cash controlled accounts in the district. These accounts do not have a consistent and dedicated source of revenue to them. So in the individual account, you don't necessarily want to build a program on because the revenue source isn't dedicated, it's not for certain, and it's not consistent. But if you look at that group of accounts as a whole, it has a relatively steady stream of revenue going into it. Different accounts, different years have more than others. And so they vary among accounts, but in total, there is a revenue stream going into these cash controlled accounts. I went back into the previous AFRs for 3 years and looked at what the growth was, and it's a reasonably substantial growth. And so 800,000 to use that 800,000 of that stream that is going into there, I believe to be still conservative and a reasonable use of the assets of the district to fund the things that you want to fund. So that's the funds available. Now let's talk about new expenditures. I know the list is always longer of expenditures than funds available. Beginning salary increase, $355,000. What that is changing our beginning salary from step 4 to step 7, or step 5 to step 7. So we would drop step 5, drop step 6, and step 7 would be our beginning step for new teachers coming in, which would put our teacher starting salary rate at $38,070. So we would break that $38,000 threshold, which is moving in the right direction. The teacher salary step increase, to give the teachers a step increase on their salary schedule. That step increase is the equivalent of 2%, would be $1.6 million. Teacher salary increase, that 1.06% of that continuation of the Prop 123 is $700,000. Increase the overall teacher salary schedule, raise the schedule up by 0.5%, $350,000. Pay for the teacher horizontal movement, the professional growth that our teachers that go out and continue their professional growth, compensate them for that. All other staff increase, that being the classified and administrative increase of 1%, $415,000. And the health benefits, $840,000, and that is it represents a 6% increase on the insurance rate. The committee meeting is Thursday, the health committee, and they'll be discussing format changes in that program. And we'll make that available, what their recommendation to you as we get that. More expenditures. Classified salary study implementation. HR did a classified salary study And we have selected positions, classified positions, that we need to increase their level of compensation so that we can be competitive in recruiting for our classified positions. We've had some difficulty in different areas of recruiting people to work for us. Increase salary matching benefits. Obviously, if you increase salary amounts, then you're going to have to pay more in the FICA and the ASRS, those matching benefits. And that's would be $800,000. Arizona State Retirement System contribution rate is going to increase. That's going to cost us $300,000. And then we have a governing board election in November of this year, and the election cost would be $200,000. So a summary of that would be that we have $6.6 million available. Of course, that's dependent upon the legislature and the governor. Projected new expenditures, $6,750,000. So we have a deficit there of $150,000, and we would fund that by the unused horizontal funds and staff vacancy savings. Historically, we always budget as though every teacher that says they're going to move horizontally does in fact do it, but in reality there's always some that for whatever reason are unable to complete whatever class that they were planning on taking. And so those traditionally run between $300,000 to $400,000. So between that and staff vacancy savings that we have from people when they leave us, and then we have a 2, 3, 4 week gap of bringing somebody in, we have those savings that we would be able to make up that $150,000 deficit. To put it in perspective, specifically to the teacher increases, you can see where we're at after counting FY19 as one of the 4 years. Then we will have increased teacher salaries 14% in a 4-year period of time. And you can see the numbers there of what we've done historically in the past years and what this plan would produce for the coming fiscal year. And subject to your questions, that completes this portion of the presentation.
That's good news. All right, any questions? Board Member Hartman.
So thank you, Mr. Virgil. Really appreciate it. So I guess I have a couple of questions. First, love the 14.12%. That was something that we started 4 years ago with a 10% goal in 4 years. So 14.12 is exceeding our original goal, and obviously for the work of, it's the result of the work of a lot of efforts behind the scenes. So appreciate all of administration working on that. Two questions I have for you. The first one, I don't know if you can answer right now, but if you can't, it's okay, but a follow-up would be great. When we were looking at the first slide of the, the revenue opportunities and the expenses, I would be interested in understanding, I think you said there was 6 point something, but I thought it was 7, I don't know. But I guess the point is, what's one time and what's recurring, both on the revenue opportunity as well as the expense? And so I'd be interested in understanding what that looks like. I know you called out a few of them, so I don't know if that's something you can answer right now, if it's something you need to get back on.
I can answer those. These are all reoccurring. The inflation adjustment would be built into the base level amount. Whatever that the legislature and the governor agree to would be built into the base level amount.
Right.
The teacher salary increase, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see whether it's the governor's proposal to build it into the base or the legislative recommendation to not, because the one that we gave this year was not built into the base, and I believe that's why we paid it as a stipend for this year.
Right.
So that if they did not fund it, we wouldn't be stuck having to pay it without a funding source for it. So don't know about that one. That's still up in the air, waiting for the governor and the legislature to agree to a budget. The carry forward, that's ongoing because that's part of our M&O. And so that is built into the base. So it's like you've got the M&O money that you didn't spend because we left it out of the new revised budget. So it is recurring.
Although the amount isn't predictable.
This amount is predictable,
Okay.
and it is in, and it would be in there. As far as future carry forward amounts, no, those aren't predictable.
Right.
But it's not relying on future carry forwards, because once you build this in there, then it is built into your M&O budget.
Oh.
Because the funding is there and built into the base level for the funding that produces this. So this is not one time, this is part of your M&O.
Okay, so that does then, it gets built into the base
Yes.
for future? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the operation efficiencies, like I stated, the staffing changes would be permanent unless you change staffing models, but that would be a future expense if you were to change the staffing models and enrich your staffing or add to your staffing. Then that would be an ongoing expense that you would discuss at the time that the recommendation came in to increase staffing. The cash controlled accounts, like I said, those accounts individually are not consistent and reliable, but collectively they are. And there is a balance there, and that balance, quite frankly, is viewed more as a contingency fund. If you go and you spend it all, it took years for the thing to build up to the size it is, and if you go and spend it all in one fell swoop, it will be years and years before it ever builds up again. But it's built up to a point that it can serve as a contingency fund, and then it continues to bring in funds. So how big you want it to get is a decision you can make, whether you want to cap it or grow it or shrink it is a decision you can make. But it has collectively, all of those funds collectively bring in a reasonably consistent source of revenue.
Okay. And can you expand on or provide a couple of the more significant examples for the operating efficiencies, the staffing models behind the 1.3 million?
For the 500,000, the staffing, I would have to ask Dr. Sitton to help me out on that.
Okay.
I could probably blurt something out and then she'd just correct me on it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so a little bit is around some of the special staffing that we looked at. A little bit is around even some programs that are being combined because of numbers. So some of the efficiencies that came of putting a program at one site instead of having it two site with some of our children with special needs. And so we got some program efficiencies out of there. So just taking a look at how we staff to the programs to make sure we're being the most efficient that we absolutely can be. We didn't touch target numbers, we didn't, any class size, none of that was, has changed at all.
Okay, so it was, you said specials and?
So a little bit, yeah, specials,
needs?
and then special education classrooms. We might have been running a program at 2 or 3 sites, and we're consolidating it down to 2 sites. And based on the numbers, we didn't need to have the 3 sites, so if you saved it, 1 teacher salary in that, so making some adjustments that way.
And we're comfortable, so that's based on current student requirements, but subject to what next year enrollment?
Well, they project roll-ups, so they take a look at what grade they're in and move them up to the next grade.
Okay.
And so even when you think about our little ones, we have children with special needs in pre-K, so you even know what they're coming up and rolling up your numbers. Now, you always might have move-ins that you're not quite sure about, but that even builds in some of that, so we make sure if we're able to have some move-ins, we can take care of it within that budget.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Kirby?
Thank you, Mr. Virgil. Usually this time of year, there's a placeholder for enrollment decline, and as far as money coming out of the budget. Now, I also know that we're in this new process of, I forget what we called it, but where it's real-time funding. Current year funding, thank you.
Yes.
So I just wanted to highlight that, and if you can just take a few minutes and help the group the room understand why there's not an expense, if you will, associated with enrollment decline?
Well, that process is still ongoing, and I do not have the projections on enrollment. I know we have had a decline for a couple of years. It was relatively flat this year, but I'm not sure where the numbers are at this point as to whether we're at a decline, or if we're flat, or if we're growing, and to what degree.
Okay, so let's just, for example's sake, because it would be the most conservative scenario, let's assume that there is an enrollment decline. Hope that there's not, but let's assume that there is. How is that going to affect the numbers that you're presenting?
Well,
is that going to be another expense item, if you will?
It could be. When you get decline, it is seldom evenly spread. I mean, my experience is it's rarely spread evenly, and so it's usually in one place or another. So generally speaking, when you have a decline, you also have some less expenses because you don't need all the staff that you had. And it doesn't necessarily come out to a direct correlation, but when you have a decline, you can normally get some staff savings that offset to some degree the numbers that you're losing. Does it offset them all? Probably not all. But again, it depends on what the decline is and where it occurred.
So do you have, because you presented at the last slide was, I think you were at a $150,000 reconciling item.
Yes.
Do you have funds in your back pocket that if we do decline, you can help offset that? Because we're pretty much.
I got a little bit of staffing stuff. So, yeah. Okay. We probably have about 10 to 15 staffing positions that are not part of this because of the number roll up right now. So we'll see as kindergarten comes in and as new enrollment comes in, but that's probably about $500,000 that we have that we'll see whether or not we end up allocating out that staff or not.
Okay, yep. So you've got some additional cards to play if we have to, I guess is what I'm asking. Another question, don't go too far because I think this would probably be a Dr. Sitton question. Thank you for the beginning salary move from step 5 to step 7. But 3870 is abysmal. So my question is, what was going through my head is how do we break 40? And so really the question is how much is each step worth?
Where's your number? Show me what your number. It's not even because the higher up we go to take off, the more people are in that. So when I figured out, I didn't figure out beyond that 38. When I figured out that 355, it was about 170 for the first step.
Okay.
And then the second step took us to 355. So if I do another step, it's going to take a lot higher because there's more people sitting there. We're hoping that then we can take 2 steps off the following year, which is 40,000, is the $40,000 mark. So to get to 40,000 was the 5-year plan. The 10% was the 4-year plan. So at this rate, we can hit that 40,000 in the 5 years.
Okay. And then one last comment. If you can, you're interim and you bring a wealth of experience with you. If you can help us before you leave us, I would very much like for the board to consider financial policies around these cash-controlled accounts that you speak of, so that we can memorialize into policy when the board needs to be aware that these monies are being spent. So almost like guardrails. You said that the board can decide, do we want to spend the money? It's almost like a rainy day fund. When do we spend the money? How big do we let it get? How small do we allow it to get? Right now, the board, thank you for bringing that to us and allowing us to have input onto that, but we don't have a policy, to my knowledge, that requires for that to happen. And so I am looking for some guidance and some help in establishing those policies, those guardrails that say once it gets bigger than this, amount, board, we need to have a conversation. Or once it gets smaller than this amount, we need to have a conversation. So if you can help us with that, I would be very grateful.
Certainly, I'd be glad to do that, and that's what you'd have to do is, obviously for another time, a discussion with all those funds that are in that category and what their sources are, and each of those funds has a specific statute that details what you can spend it on and what you can do with it. Collectively, you can do just about anything collectively, but each fund has its own set of rules. And so, yes, that'd be a discussion first to get you informed on what funds are, what their rules are, what their current balances are, and then collectively, as a board, decide what level of a contingency / rainy day fund do you want to maintain, and keep it at that, and then how far do you want it to grow before you cap it, and how far do you want it to drop before you start putting the brakes on and backing off what you're doing. And that's relatively easy to do, and then it's just a matter of keeping you updated on where those funds are at.
Perfect. You're the guy.
It sounds, when you get into the money, it sounds like a lot, and just anecdotally, I did this at a previous location, and I came under some criticism that people thought it was too much, and I don't know what's too much or too little. I just know that more is generally better. But when the recession hit, to give you an idea, and a lot of districts were doing different things, and furloughs and layoffs and cutbacks, and we didn't do anything. We just maintained. We didn't do anything new, but we just held steady. But that was, we burnt through $7 million in 1 year. So you can have you can have, oh wow, 10, 15 million, you think it's a lot, and then in 1 year, boom, 7 million's gone. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, it kind of puts it in perspective for you to not get tricked into thinking that that's a really big number, because a school district, especially a school district this size, you will go through that quickly. But that's a conversation and discussion that you can have and come to an agreement of what you want it to be.
Okay, thank you. And I just thank you for that. And just with respect to the teacher salaries, I wanted to share with my colleagues, because as you know of open meeting law, this is the only time we can do so. I took the liberty over the weekend to source average teacher salaries across the state from the Auditor General's report. And I focused on valley districts as well as some of the larger districts across the state, as Flagstaff, Tucson, etc. There are 240 districts approximately in the state. I closely looked at 35 of those 240. And Scottsdale in those 35 we had an average teacher salary of $49,435, which in all fairness is a snapshot in time, and it is clearly driven by the mix of the teachers that you have, what year they are in their careers. A 3.5% salary increase moves Scottsdale from that snapshot of $49,435 to $51,165, and it puts us on these 35 districts that I pulled, which I believe were the top in the state. I could be wrong, but it put us in the top 12 in the state. So that is very positive movement, but it is not where this board member wants to get. If you look on the very, very high end, you have Phoenix Union, which pays starting with a 6. Granted, they get more state, or they get more total per pupil funding and revenue than any other district in the state because of the amount of federal and state and local funds they get. But we've made progress, and we should be very proud of that progress, and I am proud. I'm proud of all of us. But I don't want us to sit back and say that's enough and that that's good enough, because it's not good enough. We're top 12. That's awesome. We've moved quite a bit in 4 years, but we need to keep digging and continue to find more. I appreciate what you have found for us, and I appreciate the efforts of the entire team, because I know this isn't just you're sitting at your computer. These are organizational changes that all of the departments are making. but I like to encourage us to keep moving and keep going and don't stop.
Thank you, Board Member Beckham.
Thank you, Dr. Virgil, and thank you for that information. That's great to hear. It's terrific that we can increase teacher salaries. I just have two questions that I wanted to follow up with Board Member Hartman so that I can understand it. And it goes to what was, Board Member Kirby was just talking about on the controlled accounts. When you say they're revenue producing, are you saying it just interest is on? Is that the revenue that is being produced? Is interest on these accounts?
Interest is part of it, but that is not their sole source of income. They exist because there's they exist for a reason. They exist for a reason to account for monies that the district gets for various things, and it's varied.
Well, what I'll ask, because it kind of just follows up, is what I was going to ask is if we could have an accounting of what that is. And so it sounds like you would be doing that for the request that just came in, because you said you would give us a summary of what are these accounts, what they're for, and then it would show what the revenue producing. So I won't take any more time, because it sounds like we're going to be getting that. So that was one question. The second question to follow up is, I thought I heard you say that the $2.3 million was a one-time increase because it was a double expenditure. So then I was confused on how the 2.3 is a reoccurring revenue when I thought I heard you say that you discovered it because it was paid twice.
It was a one-time accounting oversight, but it's part of the M&O.
So it'll just, okay. So it is.
So, and the M&O is based on your base level, which is your base funding.
So it was taken out of the M&O for that year twice.
Correct. It was subtracted when it was a transfer. When it was transferred into that energy and water savings fund, that transfer was a positive addition to the energy and savings and dropped off of the revenue control limit amount, which adds up to your general budget limit. So it was subtracted there. Then when the individual was looking at the annual financial report and looking at the total actual expenditures, they added it to the expenditures, thinking it needed to be accounted for, but it had already been accounted for, so that's where it got subtracted twice, but it's part of your M&O.
Thank you very much.
Great. Any other questions or comments? It's nice to have an accounting error go in your favor for once. That's terrific. And I agree, to see our teachers' salaries finally be heading in the right direction, above the goal that we set. That's terrific. As the mother of a future teacher in a couple of years, I love seeing salaries go up. She might move out one day. So thank you very much. Board Member Kravitz, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was seeing the numbers, and then I saw like the 14% increase, and my head started to explode. But can you just review how much of this money is new funding from the state?
Okay, just the 1.06.
Well, the inflation adjustment is the 1.77, and that's the JLBC.
That's dependent upon approval. Okay.
And that's that 177. You never say never with the legislature until it's signed
until it's actually the gavel's down.
But that is that's part of that lawsuit. And I would be real surprised, because that's where we get the lesser of 2% or inflation.
Right.
And so
no, I'm just the reason I ask is because having been in this district for a while, and I'm just really thankful that we have somebody with a sharp pencil, as my colleague Mrs. Kirby used to always request, to sharpen your pencil and find us some more money. So I guess I just make the comment because I'm grateful that you're able to do what we've been trying to do for several years in this district, which is fund more money into our classroom. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I remember years when things were cut because we were told there's no money, and we found more money with you know, relatively little more from the state, so I just appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I have to say, the expression "found more money" always kind of grates me because it implies it was lost, and it's not really lost. It's just a matter of identifying what we can use and get it into a format that we can use it in a manner that you want to use it.
Board Member Kirby.
I would add to that, it's about priorities. It's where is this organization putting its priority? And you're right, it's not lost, but it's, in my mind, it's simple. What's our priority?
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Fuller, did you have a comment?
I do, Madam President, members of the board. We will be bringing this recommendation to you in about a week and a half. We will have to have a special board meeting regarding open enrollment benefits, and at that time we will bring that specific recommendation of teacher salary increases and faculty and staff salary increases for you. So I just wanted you to know that it's coming in about a week and a half, less than 2 weeks. We will bring that to you for approval.
Terrific. Okay. No further questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Virgil. Thank you for being here as well. We're very grateful you have joined us for whatever short time you will be able to stay. Okay, we'll move on to our agenda item 7, public comments. In conformance with open meeting laws, the governing board may not discuss or take action tonight on any matters raised during public comments that are not on the agenda. However, the governing board may respond to direct criticism, ask staff to review the matter, or ask that it be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, each speaker will have 3 minutes. Vice President Hartman will indicate the time with a 30-second warning. Please be prepared to close your comments and relinquish the floor at the conclusion of your time. We do ask that each speaker introduce themselves for clarity in the record. We thank you for your time and attendance here tonight and your cooperation in following the meeting protocols. We are in the 21st century tonight too. That is good. I wasn't sure. All right. So yes, your time will also be indicated on the screen. Our first comment is from Patrick Mannion. No, Patrick. Natalie Perez.
My name is Natalia Parras, and I'm a second semester senior at Chaparral High School. I want to emphasize second semester because at this point I'm not supposed to care anymore, but I can't help but care about the current and future students and teachers at Chaparral High School. There seems to be no open communication, and rules are being made without explanations, tearing apart the traditions that promoted a positive learning environment at Chaparral. In this new student-centered environment, students and teachers are disregarded if their opinions are not in line with our administration. Everything we've been doing before this year has been deemed wrong and uncivilized. Now, change is usually good, but change for the sake of change doesn't help anyone and is only causing a distrust amongst our teachers and administrators, leaving behind the idea of a student-centered environment. This new standardization of all classrooms are as beneficial as standardized tests, stifling creativity and personal growth. Each student thinks and learns differently, therefore mandating teachers to have one goal for every student hurts instead of helping them. I'm here to point out that there needs to be open communication. I'm here to recognize not only our incredible athletes at my school, but the high-achieving students who have been putting in the work for the past 4 years. I'm here to advocate that the top 5% be recognized in the front row at my graduation. And I'm here to make sure that the adults are listening when students like me are advocating for themselves over a topic they're passionate about. I'm here to demand that my education take precedence over an authoritative regime. Our administration is undermining my education for their agenda in a state where public education is nowhere near a #1 priority. And on top of all this, on February 15th, I stopped feeling safe in my classroom, and that fear wasn't recognized. On February 14th, our country watched as 17 lives were lost due to gun violence. And upon returning to Chaparral the next day, not only was this mass shooting ignored, but later used as a publicity stunt for the Chaparral administration. Now, instead of studying for my calculus test here tonight, I'm here to advocate for my voice and for the juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and all students across Chaparral and Scottsdale Unified School District. I hope that when I graduate, Teachers won't have to contemplate their job security when advocating for their students, and students won't have to come down here to speak for their teachers in order to maintain a quality education. And unfortunately, after all this will only get me a meeting with my principal discussing which teacher put me up to this, because I couldn't have possibly had my own independent opinion advocating for myself. Now, my teachers didn't force me to be here, but they are the reason I'm here today. They don't stop in the classroom, but they go above and beyond helping me after school during their free periods, and a lot of them have played a huge role in writing my letters for recommendation for college and scholarships. And that is why it's so frustrating to hear them go silent against this administration, because they deserve to have the autonomy in their own classrooms when they are the ones creating the environment that has empowered me to stand up here in front of you tonight. Thank you.
Nancy Cantor is our next speaker.
I feel like I'm reliving 98 and 99 when we had the other investigation for finances in the school district. In 2015, I'm sure you remember, Mr. Heather dragged some of us together to deal with some issues at Tonalea and then some issues at Coronado, and we did a lot of research and had a lot of numbers. And you should have been here in 98 and 99, and you should have been here in 2015. We submitted our research to the attorney who had represented the Attorney General's office in the investigation in 98 and 99. And over the Christmas holidays, I got an email back saying, ha, they're doing it again. Well, that was in 2014, 2015. So we've continued to do it again for all these years. You're right. We need to learn, and we need to address policies. God knows the legislature doesn't know how to do it. They just go with the flow, and whoever's donated the most at the end of the year. We need to do it so that you and every other school, and I've had contact with Deer Valley, I've had contact with Glendale, I've had contact with a lot of them. I've even had contact with people who served on parent council in the 90s saying, why are we doing this again? I don't know. I don't like it. But this gentleman has presented tools to you that are incredible. Use them. Not only you, the community, the parents. There is so much misinformation out there. And there's been so much diatribe on social media that a lot of people don't know which end is up, who's a good guy, who's a bad guy, and where are we and how do we get ahead of this. So don't go anywhere. Stay as long as you can. We need to get a handle on this.
Thank you. William Teskey.
My name is William Teskey, a longtime resident here in Scottsdale, and I'm here addressing everybody, and that we need a SUSD tip hotline. I'm going to start out here a lament from the King David. Fools say in their hearts there's no God. Their deeds are loathsome and corrupt. Not one does what is right. The Lord looks down from heaven upon the human race to see if even one is wise. All have gone astray. All alike are perverse. Not one does what is right. Not even one. Will these evildoers never learn? They devour my people and they devour bread. That's from the song 14 and 53. We have a problem here, people. We really do. What we currently see in here and the President fiasco the last few weeks is just a symptom, a symptom. We need a tip hotline, and we set one up at box 1211 Scottsdale 85251. But on this tip hotline, we need straight facts, proof, and evidence. Not just anger or personal opinions. As Joe Friday would say, just give us the facts, ma'am. We need all of your help, like construction, corruption, warehouse theft of computer equipment, procurement fraud, etc., etc. The list goes on and on and on. We will confidently refer all tips and that to the authorities like the AG, the feds, etc. In confidence, it's best to give your contact information, but we'll accept if you want to be anonymous. That's acceptable. Forensics experts and my past experience in accounting and finance know that 71% of the people will admit they will steal if there's significant assets we're stealing, and they have the opportunity, because human beings are very resourceful, and that they believe they can get away with it. In conclusion, we're asking for everybody's help here, whether they work within the school district, their employees, or a vendor, contractor, or an informed citizen. It is estimated that over 75% of financial crime investigations originate from insiders, like people like yourself. Thank you very much. And again, the box number is 1211 Scottsdale 85252. That's the tipster hotline, P.O. Box 1211 Scottsdale 85252. Thank you.
Jan Michael Greenberg.
As I stand here before you, I note that collectively, you have approximately 19 years of experience as governing board members of our district. Yet, I would be remiss if I did not tell you that I see no benefit to the district from your collective leadership. Ms. Kirby's recent letter to the Scottsdale Independent, lacking both eloquence and erudition, explains her embrace of the controversy you have created in our district. You have replaced cattle, cotton, copper, and cactus with cronyism, collusion, corruption, and criminality. You may see the district as your play toy, a place for you to kill time while sound bites pour out of your mouths, but you have replaced the vision that you found flat and lacking with your welcoming embrace of nepotism, bid rigging, fraud, and a lawsuit from our Attorney General. You have thrown the baby out with the bathwater, and those blank stares on your faces betray the lack of decency in your work. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept, and your standards are shameful. Since 2010, enrollment at our district has declined 11%. There is not 1 year in the last 7 when enrollment has increased, yet during this same time, the population of the city of Scottsdale increased by 13%. Since the district has not been able to stop the decline in enrollment, and since it is your vision that you have now instilled at our district, it is safe to say that your vision is impaired. You must surely be cognizant that the district has spent $10 million more on administration during the last 7 years than the schools in the district's peer group. Your leadership actually wasted more than $10 million on excess administration to create the mess that you have made of our district. That is money that should have been paid to educators, not criminals you brought in to line their own pockets. There's quite a bit more to say, but this forum is limited in time. I've decided to run for a board seat, and I'm going to dedicate my time to the board to returning this district to excellence. I will ferret out corruption and reduce the insanity of our administration overhead, and I will move that money to paying the educators. We will not tolerate conflicts of interest, vendor trips to Tahiti and the Ritz-Carlton, nor will we knock down schools so that corrupt administrators can furnish their homes and pad their bank accounts. When it is prudent to build, we will build. When it is prudent to repair, we will repair. I will insist on transparency and best practice. I will point out board members who extol and praise administrators who steer money to companies they secretly own, and I will make the community aware. When I find corruption, I will report it immediately to my fellow board members, the community, and to the Attorney General. Lastly, I promise our community that rather than putting our district through changes that have no empirical foundation, I will make sure that changes enacted will be well thought out, discussed, transparent, and have a basis rooted in best practices. The changes will not be derived from experiences gained from delivering Cheetos to the marketplace. Thank you.
Ellen Young. Do we have Ellen Young?
I just quickly want to say thank you to all of those who stayed through this. I appreciate you guys. And thank you to the board and to Dr. Fuller and Sandra for letting us talk. My name is Ellen Young. I am a Tovon parent, and I will be for hopefully much, much longer. I'd like to begin this evening by stating that although I'm very grateful to the board for putting Dr. Birdwell on administrative leave, I have many more concerns on subsequent decisions that have been made. Currently, Dr. Birdwell's cabinet is still part of this district as well. I hope that a little bit of common sense will kick in, because we all know that her cabinet worked very closely with Dr. Birdwell, and they knew what was going on, and yet they did not bring anything up regarding Dr. Birdwell's tightrope walk with our precious bond money. They didn't bring it up. If they didn't bring it up then, they are just as guilty as anything that Dr. Birdwell was a part of, and that is something we simply cannot ignore. They have made some extraordinarily awful decisions, and they did it to a Title I school. Dr. Nance denied summer school funding for transportation to Tovon last year, even though there was over $800,000 left over in the desegregation fund. Dr. Birdwell and her administration have collectively made the decision to take away desegregation funding for Tovon's counselor, reading specialists, academic tutors, and many more key elements of the school that are needed to keep it functioning. Just take a look at that SIP presentation and you'll know that those Title I funds are not going to stretch through that. We need some desegregation funds back. Now these same administrators are pushing the school to get their grade back up. This is like taking off someone's leg, asking them to run a race, but not only run it, but win it. Let's see how that scenario plays out in real life. It's not going to be good. On to my last but probably most disturbing point of what has happened most recently. I have emailed the entire board twice regarding my worries over having Amy Fuller as our acting superintendent. Please allow me to tell you all what is said in return to my emails. I was told only by one person, which is Allison Beckham, thank you for responding, that Amy Fuller was vetted and was found to be a hard worker with integrity. The main issue with this appointment is that the fact that Amy Fuller failed to fulfill her contract as superintendent in Florence. She resigned before her contract was up. To me and many, many other parents I have spoken to, this not only shows that she is not a hard worker, but the whole integrity issue flies out the window as well. If you can't fulfill a contract, you aren't fulfilling your duty to your parents and to your district. Why would she be brought in as acting superintendent when she couldn't fulfill her previous duties in a much smaller district? I have expressed those concerns, and my one question is, if Ms. Beckham, can you please tell me who did the vetting process? Last night's meeting brought to light the fact that Amy Fuller and her daughter resigned from the district at the same time. Didn't we just fight to get rid of Dr. Birdwell based on many things, but one of the most obvious was conflict of interest. We are looking at history repeating itself, and it cannot continue. Thank you.
Susie Ning, N-I-N-G, I believe, Susie.
Good evening. I would like to echo the thanks for everybody who stayed to this late portion in the evening. I know most of us have children at home that we're not with because we're here instead. And on that point, I would like to ask you to move the public comment section of the meeting back to the beginning, burying it later in the agenda. It sends the message that the board doesn't care about what we have to say and also wants to wait us out, so we'll go home. We ask that you stop the abuse of the executive session that shields the public from information. The executive session is intended for sensitive personal issues. This is not a way to get other district business done or handled privately. Finally, we ask that you not hire any superintendent until there is a proper public process. The public is not in support of Amy Fuller as acting superintendent or the interim superintendent or the permanent superintendent. First, she was specifically recruited to our district by Dr. Birdwell. And Amy Fuller has overwhelmingly and publicly endorsed Birdwell and her policies after the public comment portion that laid out much of the corruption that Birdwell brought to our district. She said, while still wrapping up her presentation, I wish to thank Dr. Birdwell for her courage and determination, and her focus is no doubt on the children. If she thinks Birdwell was focused on the children, then that begs to question what her focus is on. In addition to that, she engaged in nepotism in her previous school district by employing her daughter. It is this kind of behavior and corruption that we are trying to root out of our district. We are calling on you to stop making decisions that are not in the best interest of our school district. We will stand for it no more. Let's work together to choose an interim superintendent and a permanent superintendent. A collaborative effort at this point would go a long way in restoring this district's population faith in the school board, which you have lost through this process. Thank you.
Scott Rogers. Do we have Scott Rogers? No? No? All right. Dan Drake.
Good evening. My name's Dan Drake. I'm still here. I'm not going away. We are not going away. We live here. Now, we want to be included. You've heard a lot of passion tonight, and you've heard at every regular meeting that you have permitted open public comment. That passion is important. It is what drives the people who live in this district. They want to see this school succeed. They want to see the school district succeed. When you push them away, when you tell them you don't want to hear what they're talking about, when you want them to sit down and shut up, then you have lost their confidence. You do not deserve their confidence. There was a bond oversight committee that was supposed to be created to make sure the bond funds were spent well. They've met twice, I believe. 2 members were excluded or kicked off that committee by the superintendent when they started to ask some questions. That clearly is not public involvement. Now, we're still willing to work to save this district and to save the schools and the students that participate in them. There was an offer made recently by you, Member Kirby, to get community involvement. Well, it's not like it's not like the Bond Oversight Committee that we need. It is something much more substantive than that. The board runs this place. Regardless who they hire, they set the tone, they set the expectations and what is acceptable. That's your responsibility, and you can't shirk that. Show us that you respect the people who have elected you. Show us that you care. You know, a friend of mine wanted to come tonight. I tried to talk her into it, but she said, you know, they don't listen, they don't care, they don't acknowledge, they don't respond. It's like talking to the stone figures on Easter Island. It's empty. So, show us you care. Show us you respect us. Be transparent. Let us see what you're doing. Share it with us. Engage us with our passion to help you. What you've got in front of you is a very big task. But look at the room here and all the people that want to help you succeed and to make the schools better. Include us in the design of schools and how they fit our communities. Include us in the selection of the officials that you choose to lead this district. We have a stake in this. Don't exclude us. Finally, what we want to say is that this community is what makes this district great. Include us in the operations that make this district work. Thank you.
Eric Kurland. Eric Kurland.
So sorry. Hi, everybody. I am speaking on behalf of the Scottsdale Education Association. There'll be a few of us coming together. No district can be successful without the support of its teachers, but this governing board has consistently voted over the last 2 years in ways that have hurt teacher morale and have alienated the vast majority of us. The board's actions, for the most part taken without teacher input or teacher consent, have harmed the operations of the district. The governing board has, in private and in public, made clear its belief that the district's teachers are the biggest problem facing SUSD. Despite Scottsdale's consistently high rankings as a district, this board has repeatedly stated or implied that SUSD's teachers' professional knowledge is sorely lacking. SUSD teachers need to be micromanaged, and SUSD's teachers' elected representatives cannot be good partners in providing for change. These opinions are unsubstantiated and reflect the gross ignorance of this district's teachers and our representative organization. Autocratic management is not and never has been an effective way to run an organization, nor to provide for meaningful change. 2 years ago, when this board made it clear that it felt new changes needed to be made, it chose a corrupt and autocratic superintendent to force change on teachers rather than to engage in it with us cooperatively. Contrary to the statements some of you have made publicly, the Teachers Association did not seek to block all changes. It merely wanted them done with proper consideration, incrementally, to ensure smooth implementation, and through the collaborative process so that teachers could feel empowered by the sought after changes and embrace those. Teachers have to live with the damage that trigger-happy, impulsive administrations and governing boards enact long after they have left office. Nearly 2 years ago, the SEA asked the governing board to make the changes collaboratively and slowly. Slow is smooth, we said, and smooth is fast. Let's work together. Let's get this right. This is not to say that teachers do not share a sense of urgency to improve, but rushing to change is inferior to securing improvement. The key word to emphasize is collaboration. It takes energy, effort, and time. We did not get smooth collaborative change. What we got was essentially an outright attack on teachers and their representative organization for not thoughtlessly going along with everything the governing board and administration wanted. Collaboration promotes buy-in and good faith. Collaboration enhances relationships. Collaboration is important. Autocrats avoid collaboration. We, the teachers, have seen no evidence that our governing board is listening to us. Waiting until the eve of the charges from the AG's office to terminate an individual who has bullied her way through our district, creating fear, anxiety, and chaos is not evidence of listening. Thank you.
Carrie Kurland.
Dr. Birdwell came into our district and began loudly proclaiming, all systems are broken. When we heard all systems are broken, we scratched our heads. And then we proceeded to watch Dr. Birdwell begin to systematically dismantle our district, remove or drive off talented and dedicated leaders, and express her disdain publicly for teachers. An abuser isolates and intimidates in order to control his or her environment. We were not broken, but you allowed her to break us. So now what? How do we move from blame to healing? How do we reconcile? First step, we need our board to authentically acknowledge that there is a problem. Good teachers are reflective teachers. Reflection is the essential element of assessment as we seek to ascertain what our students know, what they don't know, and how we help them to move forward. It is appropriate to use the process of reflection to review these past 2 years in our district to identify the patterns of action and decision that have led us to where we are now. Through reflection, we see the ways SEA has communicated as the voices of our teachers, as district management began to methodically cut away our teachers' framework of support. Through reflection, we see the ways our parent community has raised concerns and red flags about district management's poor and unethical actions. We think it is important for you to hear what the last 2 years have felt like for the silent majority of teachers. The following timeline shows the pattern of how the district created our current reality. Teacher voices eliminated and community voices dismissed. This pattern has led us to a place where our school district is under investigation by the Arizona Attorney General, and many of our teachers and community are on the verge of leaving SUSD. But reflection can also help us find a way to change the patterns of dysfunction and destruction. Now is the time for our board to acknowledge its complicity in this pattern and to recommit to restoring the strengths and voices of the teachers and our community. Our students require this from our board. In September of 2016, Dr. Birdwell went to Coronado to meet with staff. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this issue because it is the genesis of much of the chaos that followed. All the information is verified by minutes taken by our September SEA Exec Board meeting. SEA would like to be transparent to our teachers and the governing board as to our thought processes from the very beginning, as it set up a pattern that we saw repeatedly over the next 2 years. After the Coronado meeting, teachers reached out to SEA, saddened and hurt by Dr. Birdwell's message. Here is what they told us they heard in her message. Half of you here aren't really good teachers. You've been hiding in the shadows to collect your paycheck. Feel free to resign if you are not a good teacher.
Bert Teveld.
I will continue the reading, but first, let me give you a tip, how to not forget the Tovon teachers. I'm a proud colleague of Marion Williams. All those students that do robotics at Tovon and Hopi now, make sure they continue to do that in middle school. I challenge you to take care of that. Teachers were concerned because the speech was demoralizing and felt like a slap in the face. Dr. Birdwell clearly stated that if you buck or resist, you will be looking for different employment. Teachers were expressing that fear was keeping them from speaking their mind, and teachers felt that going to board members or complaining might result in retaliation. The SEA board took the following action. We asked ourselves and our teachers if we were being authentic and honest about our concerns. Are we scared of change? No. Does Coronado need help because of the specific challenges of its student population? Yes. Is it professional and helpful to speak to teachers in this way? No. Does it serve a purpose to help our students? No. We ultimately determined that this was a power issue. We worried about morale and anxiety in the workplace. We asked each other how SEA could better shield its teachers so that they can do the hard work of teaching. We ultimately decided upon the smallest weapon in our arsenal and sent an in-house letter to Dr. Birdwell. We chose to CC the board because we hoped you would take responsibility and hold Dr. Birdwell accountable. In crafting the letter, we considered this question as our driving force. How can we give Dr. Birdwell the opportunity to self-reflect and make this right instead of creating conflict? The SUSD governing board took the following action. You did nothing. And so we've been stuck in this escalating pattern. Teachers bring relevant, authentic concerns to the SEA. The SEA considers how best to engage in a proportional, professional response. The governing board responds by dismissing teacher fears as reaction against change. Dr. Birdwell, with the board's complicit silence, ignores or retaliates against those who dare to stand up to her. SEA's intensity of response grows each time the board of Dr. Birdwell rejects our legitimate concerns. Dr. Birdwell's intensity of response increases each time we defy her by not rubber stamping her policies. And here we are again today, asking you to listen, again participating in a democratic process, because we believe and have always believed that collaboration and cooperation is the best way to advocate for our students and our profession. November 2016, SEA members make a plea for a full superintendent search to make sure we had the best candidate possible. 84% of teachers voted to continue the superintendent search. Instead, the governing board voted to permanently hire Dr. Birdwell. The SEA Executive Board then advocated for a 1-year contract. The governing board instead offered her a 3-year contract. January 2017, secure with a 3-year contract as superintendent, Dr. Birdwell rolled out the Coronado Complex Initiative and informed Coronado staff that it would all be required to reapply for their positions at Coronado for the coming school year.
Chris Ambry.
Good evening. I'd like to continue on with a statement from the SEA. The swift rollout of this program became a pattern, as did the lack of clear communication from district management. SEA communicated with governing board members, begging them to get better teacher input about less disruptive ways to improve Coronado's student outcomes. The board responded by backing Dr. Birdwell and ignoring the dismay of teachers. One board member said, "I want to say how impressed I am with this initiative. This was a community where everyone has said, this is good enough, this is fine. I'm excited to see this kind of forward thinking." The Coronado community had said none of those things, but the governing board ignored the concerns of the majority of the community before voting on this controversial measure. The governing board voted 5-0 to support the Coronado Complex initiative, disperse what would become roughly 4/5 of the total staff, and decimate its institutional memory, resulting in enormous pressure on the few who remained. January 2017. The SCA requested a meeting with Dr. Birdwell because of the tsunami of concerns and reports that we were hearing from teachers. Dr. Birdwell arrived, behaved in an unprofessional manner, and threatened to leave within the first 5 minutes. Suffice it to say, the meeting did not go well. We hoped to raise concerns and get answers for our members, but instead we were branded as a small group of disgruntled troublemakers. The board continued to sit silently. February to March 2017. When the climate survey results showed the deplorable morale and the collapsing confidence in the district administration that the autocratic changes had caused, Dr. Birdwell claimed the results were invalid because a few teachers had pointed out that if they were in fact honest about the first couple of demographic questions, they could be identified at their school. Well, there was absolutely no reason for teachers to lie on any non-demographic questions on the survey. The administration claimed the entire survey invalid and buried the results. Governing board members either said nothing or went along with it. March 2017, the governing board met in study session to vote on suspending a portion of the TEA, which had been created collaboratively by district administration, principals, and teachers, voted on by teachers, and ratified by the governing board. Dr. Birdwell claimed that it restricted her ability in regards to staff transfers and hires. The governing board, apparently deciding that working out timelines with teachers was too democratic, voted to suspend 2 portions of the TEA. The 2 portions suspended were small, but they were symbolic. SEA, after vigorous petitioning, was granted 10 minutes to speak to the board after they returned from an executive session. SEA had to address the board without being shown the language on which they were to comment beforehand. It was clear in your swiftness to vote 5-0 in support of the TEA suspension that, again, you were uninterested in what teachers had to say. It was not until after the meeting that the district even shared the language of the new policy revisions with the SCA.
Patricia Vassell.
Thank you. We continue. In April of 2017, with the meet and confer process breaking down because our district was no longer bargaining in good faith, a 2% teacher raise was announced with the addition of 3 days to our teaching contract. Near the same time, SEA teachers on the insurance committee were fighting against rising health costs. Teachers logically argued that a raise that included additional work days and rising health care should not be considered an actual raise. The governing board showed great concern over the additional 3 contract days regarding changing the student calendar, which had just been approved by a committee of parents, teachers, and administration. We didn't apparently want to cause families to change plans that they might have made, but had no problem unilaterally adding to the teacher calendar, despite the fact that many of them are also parents in the district. This made teachers feel undervalued and inconsequential. In April of 2017, the SEA Meet and Confer team tried to advocate for teachers during this time and showed the district how they could pay teachers for the 3 extra days by using carry-forward monies available from the previous year. The district administration and governing board refused to use the available monies to cover the additional days of work, refused to remove any of the 3 days from our contract, and refused to compromise in the face of growing unhappiness in its teacher stakeholders. Our contracts were already signed. We felt trapped. In March, April, and May of 2017, teacher and community members began to be more vocal and involved in local school board meetings. Teachers started to show up. We began to speak to you through public comment because we had tried private letters, email communications, and in-person meetups. We were increasingly ignored. Again, we were branded as a small group of troublemakers. SEA wanted to show you that teachers stood united. Teachers used green cards during public comment to show when they were in agreement with the speakers. We chose peaceful public protest in an escalating environment of fear and chaos. You chose to ignore our teachers and look on our green cards with condescension when what we needed you to do was to see them as a sign of authenticity and solidarity. In May 2017, on May 11th, at what would end up being the last day of the meet and confer process under the former TEA, district officials informed the meet and confer team that the district would not finish the process with them and would meet with next year's SEA executive board members over the summer to discuss changes to the TEA. This information came as a surprise to both the SEA executive board and the meet and confer team. SEA was given two choices: accept the limited conversation or have no conversation.
Bonnie Bizon.
Continuing on, the district, we were given two choices: accept whatever limited conversations the district management would allow, have no conversations at all, and our board was silent. A slew of district leaders were rapidly replaced at the end of the year and through the following year. Here's an incomplete list of district managers and principals who left or were removed during Dr. Birdwell's reign. Karen Benson, Executive Director of Instructional Services. Danny O'Brien, Chief Financial Officer. Tom Clark, Chief Technology Officer. Christine Harrington, PIO. Kyle Ross, Director of Assessment. Kim Dodds, Director of Gifted. Terry Worcester, Director of Facilities and Operations. Diane Whitmore, Director of Curriculum. Mary Kober, Position Control Budget Manager. Mike Romanoff, Director of Purchasing. Dave McNeil, Assistant Superintendent. Gretchen Kaiser, Anasazi Elementary School Admin. Benjamin Rote, Arcadia Neighborhood Learning Center Admin. Lori Colling from Hopi. Amy Moore from Navajo. Amy Uchaz from Pima, Art Velarde from Pueblo, Lori Pizzo Tanalea, Michelle Ostot, Copper Ridge, Lance Huffman, Kokopah, Therese Tipton, Ingleside, Gail Holland, Chaparral, Alyssa Tarkington, Coronado, Nikki Wilfort, Desert Mountain, Brian Court, Saguaro, Jesse Kinney, Pueblo, Jackie Hale, Pueblo, 18 different school psychologists, Barbara Bowie, Cliff McKenzie, Jamie Aguilar, Ann Hansen, Diane Ellett. What about the teachers who warned you before they left? We won't read you all 200 names, but Christine Marsh was Teacher of the Year, and her observations about what was happening wasn't good enough for you. Despite Dr. Birdwell's assertions that the number of teachers leaving SUSD at the end of last year was no different than the previous year, the SEA counted the number of teachers leaving in board agendas and saw that over 10% more teachers left than in the previous year. These were dedicated public servants. They did not leave because they were suddenly being asked to work hard where they had not been previously. Even if you were unable or unwilling to protect them, so many people leaving should at the very least have caused you to question why so many district employees, both teachers and upper management, chose a different path. These departures should have been a red flag to you. SEA suggested exit interviews and climate surveys to find out why. The administration and the board chose silence instead of action. June 2017. The SEA Exec Board met at Old Main with members of the district cabinet to discuss the TEA and continue on where meet and confer stopped. Dr. Birdwell was aggressive from the start and hinted that if we didn't accept the conditions that the district wanted to impose, the district would allow the TEA to expire.
Katie Asali.
I am continuing the message from the SEA. The district would allow the TEA to expire so that we had no employment agreement nor means to bargain. Despite this veiled threat, we attempted to address district concerns by providing them with teachers' perspectives and insight. We spoke of these concerns to some of you as well following that meeting, to no avail. You chose to trust Dr. Birdwell over our district's teachers. We believe that trust was misplaced. June 2017, the SEA Executive Board arrived at the Old Main offices for a second meeting between SEA and district management to discover that no one at the district level had put the second meeting on their calendar. The Executive Board was forced to leave without meeting that day. For 3 weeks, the SEA repeatedly asked Dr. Birdwell for a list of areas that the TEA that the district wanted to revise and received no response until the day before the next meeting. During this time, our executive board reached out to you, our governing board, with our concerns. Your response made it clear that you were not listening and still trusted Dr. Birdwell. On June 30th, despite the instability and fear that the loss of the TEA would cause amongst our teachers, you allowed it to expire for the first time in decades. July 2017, the SEA Exec Board met with members of the district cabinet intending to work on consensus and revision regarding the TEA, which, although technically expired, could be reinstated. There is precedent for this, but it became clear within minutes of the meeting starting that the district had no intent of negotiating in good faith. We were informed that this discussion would be informal because of unearthed tax documents showing that the SEA was out of compliance with their status. We call BS. This was union busting from the start. Our tax status was never anything more than a reason to shut us out and remove the TEA. If you hadn't done it through an innocent and now rectified tax error, you likely would have simply done what you did to the classified agreement. The union representing the classified employees finished their meet and confer process and sent their finished agreement to the board to ratify. You chose to stick it in a drawer, turn it into a handbook, and remove pieces of it at will. Rather than work with the SEA to come to an agreement that would be satisfactory to its employees, you began the process of consolidating power in Dr. Birdwell's hands. She began her crusade for a limpid teacher employment handbook that could be changed at will instead of a strong, collaborative employment agreement that represents 50 years of collective knowledge and experience. July 2017, the district canceled a final meeting with SEA before the start of the school year and informed us that we would be unable to have contact with new teachers at the annual teacher luncheon, canceling AEA President Joe Thomas's visit and keynote speech to new teachers in Scottsdale.
David Hanlon.
I'm going to continue the SCA speech. Even after canceling AEA President Joe Thomas's visit and his keynote speech to new teachers in Scottsdale, the governing board did nothing. July 2017, Julie Sanowski and Bonnie Bizone met with Dr. Birdwell, Dr. Sitton, Barbara Perlberg, Sandy Kravitz, Michelle Marshall, and Laura Smith at the MDA. During this meeting, Dr. Birdwell tried to shame us by playing the victim and relating the bad behavior of members of our community because someone had the audacity to be sending her Laura Smith's mother's obituary, the same obituary that Dr. Birdwell later claimed not to have knowledge of. The SCA president was then informed that her half-time status as president on release would be revoked. We were informed that the SCA would not be allowed to use bulletin boards, district email, or school mailboxes to contact members and would not have official standing in the district. 2 board members were in the room at this time. You sat silently and watched Dr. Birdwell dismantle the TEA and SEA because they were the strongest advocates of teacher voices and agency in decision-making, removing us consolidated power in the hands of Dr. Birdwell. August 2017. The year started with no TEA, no meet and confer process, and 3 additional professional development days. The SEA sent the first of many formal requests for mediation in hopes to restore healthy working relationships. You greeted the request in silence, like you did with the 5 other requests that followed in the upcoming months. August and September 2017. A new committee was formed to revise governing board policy. 2 SEA members were on this committee in an attempt to be part of the process and to continue to advocate for teachers in spite of the circumstances. Without the TA in place, the policies put into effect place an inordinate amount of power into the superintendent's hands. Our confidence in district management continued to devolve. The board continued to ignore teachers' concerns. October 2017, the board appeared shocked by the parade of teachers and parents at the board meeting who criticized the new governing board policy regarding children on campus and our professional workday. The 2 SCA members who sat on that committee were less shocked since they had been put in their place on more than one occasion in the governing board policy meetings. In response, another policy committee meeting was scheduled and the language was softened. It was the first time in over a year that the governing board showed any willingness at all to respond to authentic teachers' concerns.
October 2017, to gauge teacher support for the SEA and show the governing board that the SEA represents more than just its members, we launched Project North Star and collected 1,144 cards signed by employees asking the governing board to recognize the SEA as their voice in the district regardless of their membership in our association. 1,144 people chose to designate SEA and SSPA to be their advocate for their profession and their students. A significant number of students state that they supported the project and wanted us to represent them, but were afraid that they would be targeted by their principals or the district management if it were known that they had signed the form.
Kathy Skinner. Kathy Skinner will be followed by Lori Sobel.
I continue SEA's message. Some teachers were told by their principals that they could not have the cards on campus or they would face disciplinary action. November 2017, SEA presented the Project North Star cards to you. You ignored them as if they were invisible. You ignored the teachers, the stakeholders in your district with expert knowledge. You state that our primary goal is to educate. You cannot educate without listening to your educators. October, November, December 2017. Teachers and community members continue to speak the truth at board meetings. Evidence was presented to you by community advocates. You continue to ignore it. The AG's office began investigating. The community honed in on misspent tax monies. Teachers continue to advocate for collaboration and shared decision-making. All were ignored. Cease and desist letters were issued to members of the community. Vocal teachers were targeted and retaliated against. The governing board policy backed every Birdwell idea with a 5-0 vote. You sat silently complicit in the face of a community who had been asking you to listen to reasons for over a year. Your reality was not our reality. Dr. Birdwell called us fake news, and we were told over and over again, we'll have to agree to disagree, if we were talked to at all. December 2017, the SEA issued a rare no confidence vote in both Dr. Birdwell and the governing board based on its poll. 92% of respondents had no confidence in district leadership. In addition, questions about morale and working conditions in the district spoke to the degree of stress, unease, and anxiety in our classrooms. The board stayed silent. If you doubt our results, we've recommended on many occasions to do your own climate survey. You have chosen not to. January 2018, the governing board voted to move public comments to further silence our voices. You said it was to honor the time of the presenters. We believe it was to reduce the number of complaints you would have to hear publicly. February 2018, community members and teachers held a rally that lined the streets of Miller Road, asking for new leadership now. This rally was a direct result of the escalating cycle starting when our district stopped listening to its community. February 2018, Laura Smith and Lewis Hartwell were finally put on leave. February 2018, Dr. Birdwell was finally put on paid administrative leave the day before the AG's office files charged. Remember, our community came to you first with these allegations. You chose to do nothing about them until you were forced to respond. If you had responded to our true and valid concerns with any authenticity, the problem would have stopped there, and you would have been the heroes of the story. But that's not what happened, and that's not our fault. Several hundreds of teachers will have been driven away through your unilaterally imposed policies by the time you begin to work with rather than against Scottsdale teachers. Scottsdale's teachers are, as they have always been, interested in trying to work together with the district and the governing board to improve situations in this district and conditions for our students. The SEA is a necessary piece to make that happen.
After Lori Sobel will be Anna Patterson.
What should have been a routine teacher vote for the 301 plan for teacher pay failed to garner the sufficient number of teacher votes. This episode demonstrates how ineffective the current system is in the absence of significant inclusion of the SEA. Under previous governing boards and district administrations, the SEA leadership would have been approached about the 301 plan well prior to sending it out to teachers. It would have pointed out that the plan's presentation lacked enough detail and would have suggested changes.
With release time to do so, the SEA president would have worked with the district management to improve it and to help decide the best way to hold the vote. The SEA would have endorsed the 301 plan to all teachers, and it would likely have passed on the first ballot. The first step in making this district work well again is to recognize that you and principals cannot effectively make all of the changes you want alone. You need teacher support. Our district's principals are enormously overburdened. Without your blessing, Dr. Birdwell designed a top-down autocratic arrangement for our district. Teachers in Scottsdale have never seen our principals so little as we have over the last 2 years. And after many of the remaining district administrators collaborated so fully with Dr. Birdwell in her corruption and her war against the Teachers Association that they are not trusted by most teachers. Teachers trust those they elect. Most teachers have far more trust in the SEA representatives than they do in their governing board members, district personnel, and principals. They come to us and ask for help. They come to us for guidance. They share with us their concerns over the direction this district is going. It is ridiculous to expect that most teachers who are concerned with poor management, either at school or district level, will come forward to directly criticize their bosses. And it is equally ridiculous to expect that your principals will come forward to directly criticize their bosses. Only the most brave or those with the least to lose are willing to speak up. Principals, district management, and the governing board do not get the full story without listening to your Teachers Association. It is not that no one knew of the corruption in Dr. Birdwell's tenure. In fact, you were all given information about it months ago. It was that by ostracizing the SEA, you have surrounded yourself in an echo chamber of people dependent on your goodwill and graces for their jobs, and have allowed yourselves to believe that the changes you are making are all for good. Your willingness to support an administration that abandoned the meet and confer process with the SEA, the teachers' elected representatives, is the most troubling. Teachers' work day, okay.
Good evening. I will continue the message from the SEA. Teachers work day in and day out with our district students. They know what's happening and what needs to happen better than any other group in our educational system. And yet you have repeatedly endorsed a system that largely removes them from the decision-making processes of this district. Over the last 2 years, you've allowed people who have not taught for decades to impose wide-ranging policies on our teachers without their consent. Meet and Confer was designed to ensure that teachers' voices are properly heard and respected. It is also essential that those teachers who represent all teachers are elected by their peers rather than appointed by the district administration. It's too easy for district management to rig committees for the outcomes they want by appointing the right mix of teachers. They can say that the process was teacher-centered, but still get the outcome they desire. We have seen the same type of rigging at work in the district's financial dealings. Why, in the absence of Meet and Confer, do you doubt that the same thing is happening in its employee dealings? Several SEA members were involved in the Employee Handbook Committee and saw it happen there. Teacher concerns over the limited scope of the handbook and the limited duration of the work were flatly dismissed, and the result is a limited document that is hard to find, hard to navigate, and removes teachers from essentially all district decision-making going forward. To do your jobs properly, you need to hear countervailing voices in more than 3-minute increments once a month. Whether you like what the SEA has to say or not, the SEA does represent the vast majority of teachers in this district. 3/4 of our teachers signed cards earlier this year asking you to recognize the SEA as their representative organization. It is time for you to embrace your teacher's representative body again, rather than double down and continue with policies that ostracize it. Again, we ask you to reinstate policies that work with the Teachers Association. Teachers need a representative voice beyond that of their principal. The SEA president, with her half release time, offered you that until you ended it. We ask that you reinstate our president time on release. Teachers need assurance that their legitimate voices are heard, so we ask that you reinstate meet and confer rather than continue with a show of collaboration by allowing district officials to select people to write new policies. Teachers need a comprehensive employment agreement rather than a piecemeal handbook. We ask that you reinstate the TEA so that teachers are assured of the rights under which they signed this year's contract going forward. If you want to retain your teachers, retain our employment protections.
Ian Steffen, followed by Lois Sugar. Ian, your daughter was amazing in South Pacific at Saguaro, by the way. Just had to say that.
At the risk of sounding immodest, I know. Thank you. I'm here to continue the message from the SEA. Thank you for your attention. Lastly, new teachers need to be welcomed to the district by their fellow teachers. The SEA was intentionally excluded from the new teacher orientation this year. Competing districts have superintendents who welcome new teachers and recommend that they get involved in their teachers association for the professional opportunities that it provides, and so that their voices are legitimately represented in the district. In Scottsdale this year, teachers were essentially told to do whatever their principals told them to do with no questions asked. Meet and Confer and the TEA were part of the culture in SUSD because they helped the district to function better in the long run. We are not only district employees. We send our children to district schools, we pay taxes, we walk for the passage of bonds and overrides. We are the champions of SUSD, and we are committed to creating an environment that reflects our values of educating students in the best possible way, in providing support and opportunities to our colleagues, and ensuring that professional treatment of educators is a reality that we create together. The manner that we work together to create positive change and to restore the public's confidence in us is crucial. We need to make these changes cooperatively through defined processes that teachers trust and that the community believes in. Now is the time to do what previous governing boards have done, even some of you. Work with the SEA as vested partners in educating our students in a manner that is reflective of our storied past and respectful of our abilities to create future educational opportunities for our students. If you are unwilling to do so, please step down so that those who do believe in working collaboratively with the teachers' elected representatives can do so. We're here to work together. Please join us. Thank you.
Lois Sugar. Lois Sugar will be followed by Beth Parsons.
Okay, I just wanted to take a moment to say that I really appreciate the hard work by the SEA Executive Board in putting this all together tonight. And so I want to thank them and yield the rest of my time.
Beth Parsons, followed by Ann Myers.
Good evening. I'm Beth Parsons. However, I'm reading a message tonight from SEA President Julie Sanowski. The current state of our district is unfortunate. That's an understatement. Time and time again, those closest to the heart of our business, teachers, have tried to provide input and meaningful feedback to you as a governing board. Time and time again, what do we hear in return? Crickets. I ask this of all administrators, managers, and board members here tonight. When you pursued your position, what was your motivation? If it was to better our district public schools, I ask that you refocus. We need you now more than ever before. We need you to support staff, students, and to advocate at the Capitol for more funding to go directly to district classrooms, teachers, support staff, and facilities. We need you to protect our time with students by diminishing this toxic testing atmosphere. Keep teachers on campus, except for teacher shows and professional development. We need you to be available to assist on site by being there every day. We need you to stand next to teachers with pride, not persuaded to believe you're a traitor if you work collaboratively with them or if you speak up for teachers and students. If you're here for any reason other than promoting our district public schools with your actions, I ask that you leave your assignments and find another way to garner wages. How much time and energy have you wasted working against us? To recover from this governing board's procedural and fiscal malfeasance, on behalf of my SEA constituents, I call on district leaders to take the following actions. Retain an independent auditor and forensic accountant to review all spending decisions directed by Dr. Birdwell. Employ a reputable organization and engage community members, SUSD staff, and SEA to conduct a search for a new superintendent. Reestablish an authentic budget committee immediately to include SEA leadership. Include SEA in creating and proposing the employment contracts for teachers through an enhanced meet and confer process. Re-examine needs, effectiveness, and qualifications of all district management positions. Solicit SEA to plan, organize, and facilitate the new teacher orientation induction. Provide a financially supported, SEA-facilitated teacher mentor program to support and retain our teachers. Create a meaningful organizational health survey to all district employees and include SEA leadership in analyzing and disseminating the results. Reaffirm the importance of SEA in district effectiveness by reinstating release time for SEA leadership. Continue work on the employment agreement with SEA. Stating these expectations is risky and bold. I'll take the time the Lois Sugar gave up.
Actually, that's not allowed. I'm sorry.
Lois, would you
Ann
mind
Myers?
doing this? Thank you.
Ann Myers is next. Just to be clear, that has always been our policy.
Yes, please. Thank you.
My name is Ann Myers. Reaffirm the importance of the SEA in district effectiveness by reinstating release time for SEA leadership. Continue work on the employee agreement with SEA. Stating these expectations is risky and bold. We are not afraid of hard work or doing what is right for our students and community. It's our focus on students that drives us to take action. State funding of education is abysmal, but the Scottsdale community has consistently taxed itself to increase dollars to our district so that neighborhood children get the best education. This community stands ready to work towards repairing the tarnished image of our once shining district. SEA stands with the Scottsdale community in demanding new administrative leadership and newly functioning governing board leadership. Time's up. We are ready to move the district away from turmoil and move forward towards its mission and commitment to safeguard the educational welfare of the Scottsdale Unified School District's children. We expect that these actions will be taken. Excuse me, Julie says, for not being here to deliver this personally, but I am trying to heal thyself.
Allie Faulkner.
I'm Kenda Strike, and Mom wanted to read this, but she had to go home. It got too late for her children, so I'm going to have somebody read it in my stead for her. Allie had to leave.
Allie was here.
This is a comment from
Allie Faulkner. This is written in her handwriting. We're just reading it.
She wrote this. Okay. She had to leave.
All right, thank you.
Okay, these are Allie's words.
Not ours.
I'm troubled that we are going down the same road we were on with Birdwell. I don't believe it was wise to vote in Dr. Fuller, who was brought to our district by Dr. Birdwell and whom endorses Dr. Birdwell's policies and leadership. Our teachers and children deserve a leader untainted, unbiased, and trustworthy to save our district schools. I understand that while Dr. Birdwell is still under contract, you cannot interview for or appoint an interim superintendent, and that acting superintendents typically come from within the organization. But I ask you to consider, after all this district and community has been through in the last 6 months, if appointing Dr. Fuller was the right choice. From the get-go, she has not had the respect, support, and trust of this community. I am asking you to reconsider this choice you made in appointing Dr. Fuller as acting superintendent and beg of you not to let her roll into interim or permanent superintendent.
Keith Zolman.
Hi, I'm Keith Zolman. I'm an architect. I spend a lot of time thinking about architecture and meaning, its meaning in the world. Did you know that architecture is often considered to be a monument to your culture? Any architecture, it doesn't have to be a gigantic, amazing building. It can be even just a rude hut. It really is a monument to the culture that created this architecture. So for instance, the Taj Mahal is exquisitely and intricately beautiful because it expresses the undying love of the Shah that he had for his wife. So he made a building to express that. The Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Kind of a big deal. It's carefully ordered and deliberate Greek orders because the whole idea was that it's meant to reflect the the reverence for the birthplace of democracy and the republic and embody the same spirit of the care and the craft that went into the Constitution of our country. Even the simple concrete blocks that we have in our houses that is all over Phoenix and South Scottsdale, that is expressive of the, we got to get it done fast, that post-war period of mass production, got to solve the need of the baby boom and get expanded out there. So it's fast, quick, does its job. Even Costco. Costco is enormously simplistic. It's a gigantic container. They don't even take their stuff off the pallets. That's what Costco's about, that tiniest little tenth of a cent that they can save. That's what it's all about. So pause for a minute and think, how many votes have you guys had that have been 5-0? I can think of one exception that wasn't 5-0. But it looks kind of funny from somebody who's not doing the voting. It looks a little bit like you guys already discussed this stuff. I don't hear any discussion during any public board meetings. I've been to several of these now, and I don't see them. So consider back then that architecture is a monument to our cultures. It just so happens that the Hopi building was also designed and poof, presented to us 5-0, I guess, with a very secretive design committee. Sorry, guys, that does not count as public participation. And then we get it. And guess what? It looks a lot like the culture I'm seeing. It's fast, cookie cutter, don't care. It is hideous. That yellow card thing's kind of embarrassing. I've got this 21st century. But anyway, the whole point that I'm trying to make is that you can sum up the building that we have at Hopi in a single word, and it is shameful. And I hate to say it, but it is still expressive of the culture. Fear not, it's not too late. The building isn't done. We have an opportunity to turn this thing around. I suggest that you ask me how. I've tried to help out with that. You have the ability to add things to the agenda for future discussion from, item X or item 10. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Hughes.
I have one more.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Susan Hughes. Yes, that's Susan Hughes. I'm a retired physician and mom of 2 SUSD students. I want to first congratulate the teachers and the principals who did the SIPs tonight, especially Tovon. You have not been forgotten. Thank you. We adore our Tovons. I want to shift gears briefly. It's your time to listen. I'm hoping you heard the impassioned pleas from the SEA tonight. I'm hoping you've been hearing the impassioned pleas from the Hopi community tonight. And I'm hoping that maybe once you'll listen to me. Let's just imagine, if you had listened to me in June, when I sent you those emails explaining the relationship of Laura Smith and her sister at PGPC, including the obituary, proving that, as well as Lewis Hartwell and Birdwell, and sent you with that email that she had him living at her house, and that he was the little brother of her roommate. I sent you all that stuff. And now it's come out that you are seeing more of that in the statement of charges, including the tens of thousands written by Robichaud to Birdwell. Let me be perfectly clear. How much energy, blood, sweat, and yes, tears could have been saved if you had listened to me and the community then. You are not the heroes of our community. Pam, Kim, and Barbara, you brought Birdwell into the community. You own the destruction. Please keep cleaning the house and do not run again in our district. Sandy and Allison. Sandy, I trusted you. I met with you. We had coffee. We talked for hours. You ignored my emails. You trusted Birdwell. You trusted the information I shared with you and Allison and forwarded those emails that got me hit with a cease and desist. Amazingly, those emails cannot be found on SUSD servers. It's nice to know that the $4,000 has been paid back by that cease and desist, but what about the other tens of thousands? Did you not ask one question of why she wanted to send a cease and desist to myself and to Karen Treon? I'm still here. The teachers are not the problems. I am not the problem. Can you hear us now?
Edmund Richard.
Good evening, governing board members, interim or acting superintendent Fuller and Sandra Como. What I'd like to share tonight would be a great movie. That'd be the parade of people who came up here with a coordinated effort to deliver a manifesto. But the thing which gets me, I'm not going to call out the teacher, but he blamed the students for the performance here at Coronado. And then all these SEA members said they agreed. That's really awesome. We have teachers blaming the community and the students for the performance. Yet this parade of people never showed up for years when I and others came up to you guys saying the students are being underserved. So I don't believe their words. And you know why I don't? Because these coordinated efforts are through social media, cell phone records, everything else. You know, it's really fun. I find it all the time. By the way, it's my job. So, you know, it's really nice you guys did this. Good job, but you need to stick to the facts. Because one of your supposed leaders is Mr. Michael Norton, one of the editors of Ross. And do you want to know what he says of the SEA? Well, I'll read a few of his quotes. The more I got to know about the SEA, the more I understood what was part of the problem with our schools. They could not organize a two-car parade if they had to. Chaparral and Desert Mountain High School are great schools if your kids are in AP or IB programs. For the rest of the kids, it's daycare for trust funders who raid mommy's medicine cabinet daily. There are 4 elementary schools to close, 2 ed centers to sell, and the old Sierra Vista campus, and 18 acres of Copper Ridge. This is really interesting because he goes on to say every single one of those school campuses is worth $15 to $20 million as high-density multi-use projects. That's nice. But of course, the teachers, for the most part, have no visionary abilities. They'll be bawling and whining when their schools close and wondering what happened. This reminds me why half our teachers need to be replaced. And they would line up and apply for consolidation and know who the loser principals are and the dead schools they're sitting in. When these people stand behind a gentleman who says these things, it makes me wonder, who are they following? Because for me, I'm following my kids' education, and that always has to be number one. I'm sorry, SEA, you've lost my confidence. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to move on to agenda item 8, our consent agenda. I will note again that we have pulled and will table consent agenda item 8G to our next meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Board Member Kirby?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Beckham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. All right, move on to agenda item 9, our action item. Item 9A, updated authorization of check signers. Dr. Fuller? Dr. Virgil? Who? Sorry. Is that your presentation?
It's a brief explanation of the policy on signers. Or Miss Marshall, is that you? I'm sorry, I'm a little tired right now.
I'm sorry, what?
The policy and explanation about the check signers. The policy states that we have to have at least 2 signers, and the board wanted to know why do we have 4?
Why do we have 4 signers?
4 instead of 2.
Ah,
basically.
okay. All right. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So, on our accounts, it requires 2 signatures. And so we have, you approve 4 signers, so if a couple of people are out, we don't have to stop business. We can still get things signed and still get checks signed. Somebody's out sick, somebody's on vacation, somebody's gone. So we identify 4 that can sign it because it takes 2 signers to sign the check. And that's the rationale behind having 4 for them.
Do you want it? Okay. Board Member Beckham, you had a question?
Yes, on that, is there an actual policy or is it a procedure, or where do we find it that says that there is 2 check signers for every account that you had listed? That was the question.
Ms. Marshall, I know, I have it. It is a policy. We'll find it in a minute.
Okay.
Well, she's finding the policy, and great that that you've made it a policy, but it's just good business practice to have 2 signers on a check system.
The policy is DGA, authorized signatures, and I apologize, I don't have it to put up on the screen for you, but it's very short. I'll read it. It simply states, authorized signatures for all checking accounts shall be approved by the board. On accounts required by statute to have 2 signatures, the signatories shall be as specified by the statutes. It's a very simple model as the policy, and we haven't changed anything with it.
Okay. And thank you for pointing that out, because it's never been pointed out. And so we were going to change the proposal so that it referenced, hopefully, the policy, because it didn't give the information we needed. And then did the background also get, the wording get changed?
Did it get changed?
Because it was incorrect on the proposal that we were given.
And I will say that I sent the information, but it was during spring break, so it may not have gotten changed on here. I'm not sure.
Okay. I can probably remember.
Was it updated?
The correct
Can we
wording.
That's our board policy.
Yeah. And we're happy to correct it.
It is corrected on the agenda.
On the new one?
No, it's not.
What does it say?
We can certainly add it to the minutes and add this, like I said, very short policy to the minutes so people can see what policy we were referencing.
Okay.
But it didn't, it looks like it did not get updated on the actual agenda.
Because it cites a statute, excuse me, Ms. Marshall, it cites a statute, but not the policy, so we should just add the policy to it, if that's okay.
And we can add that to the minutes so that it's in the record for when people look back at the documents that go with this meeting.
Okay. And it does look like on the It was updated. It wasn't as detailed because it did change it. It originally had stated that this was an annual authorization, but it wasn't an annual authorization because the annual authorization was was approved in February, and that this was an updated authorization because there were changes in the check signers. So I was just making sure that the background information was correct because it was given to us incorrectly in the first proposal. And then I just wanted to make sure that we referenced, because there was no reference on here as to how many check signers, and that it was policy of the district. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll make that clarification in the minutes correctly. I mean, we obviously can't go back and amend the posting of our agenda, but we'll make those clarifications. Dr. Fuller, did you want to make a comment?
I just had a comment. It was done because they needed to add my name. So it is once a year, but because they needed to add my name, we did it again. So it was just a clarification.
Correct, but that's not what the background had stated. So we just needed to correct the background information.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if there's no further question or discussion, I'd like to make a motion that the governing board approve the updated authorization of check signers for the district bank accounts per ARS section 15-1126 for the 17-18 fiscal year as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Beckham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, we move on to our agenda item 10, future items. Do I have any additional requests for future agenda items from board members? Board Member Kirby.
Thank you. Just to make this official, the request to have a discussion about financial policies surrounding the cash controlled accounts. And secondly, at the April 12th Governing Board study session, I am requesting that we have a conversation around a search process for acting superintendent.
Okay.
Acting.
All right. Board Member Beckham.
Thank you. Because of the recent shootings at the schools, and I think that at the forefront of all of the students, the parents, and the teachers' minds is security. So I would request that we do a comprehensive, and I'm going to call it an analysis. I'm not looking for something that's going to take a month, 2 months, or that we hire anybody, because I believe that our security department has been reviewing security over the last 2 years. We've looked at it from an economic standpoint because we've had bond and override funds to improve security. But I have not really seen anything written. Every time that we've asked, it's been an oral response. So I would like to see some more of a comprehensive written analysis or summary on our security. I'd like that to include what resources we have available to see if we can improve our security. And I'm thinking of things like security guards, because I know that our high schools have been asking for security guards, additional security guards, I say. Also that it has been mentioned that we have had a difficult time finding security because of the minimum wage increase. So I'd like to just make sure that we're looking at that in totality instead of just piecemeal when we have conversations. The second area that I would like to look at is possibly bringing, I'm going to put a little comment in here. I'm looking at discussing the placement of public comment. When this board approved it, and I can only speak for myself, and I still believe it, the reason that I voted yes to move public comment back was not so that we would not hear your voices, but that it was felt, well, one of the reasons that was most compelling to me is that we would be able to listen to public district discussion and have more information given to us and to the public so that you might have some of your public comment questions, concerns answered. I am feeling that instead of, and I had this written down, that, excuse me, however, the perception of this move was very different from what I thought the objective was. And many of the public view the move as a way to silence their comments and voices, and that this has caused additional and unnecessary anger and distrust. And I think that maybe we need to bring it back as an agenda item so that we can look at maybe restoring some of that trust if it is decided that it should be moved. But I think that in that, I have only gotten emails from people who have said, I didn't like it. So I would like to know if maybe if we do a survey, or if those individuals out there who do like having the public comment afterwards, if they would contact us so that we'll have some idea of how everybody in the public feels about it.
Okay. Thank you. Board Member Hartman.
Thank you. I would like to request at our April work study to have a status update of the external auditor review of our internal audit processes, specifically around HR and procurement, a status as to where we're at. And then secondly, I just would like to officially request Dr. Virgil, if you're the appropriate person, to provide us an update in the appropriateness of an RFP for a new external auditor. My understanding is we've had the same auditor for well over a decade, and a rotation of a new external auditor may also provide a prudent review of our internal control processes. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Our next agenda item is 11 dates of upcoming meetings. Our board will meet again Thursday, April 12th, 2018 at 3 p.m. for a study session at the Mojave District Annex. And our next regular governing board meeting is Tuesday, April 17th, 2018 at 5 p.m. here at Coronado. We move to agenda item 12, governing board reports. Do we have any governing board reports this evening? I see none. Thank goodness. All right. Not that we don't love them, but it's late. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Kirby. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Kravitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you all to those who stayed.